Hey, good Sunday evening to the live chat crew. What is up? Number one Marvel fan, you even beat Mr. Red Jack 12 to the show. Wow, that's shocking. Mr. Red Jack, let me know if you're here. I don't know if you're gone off to work or if you're going to stick around a bit tonight. Please let me know. Will this be a tell-all? It depends how much Dino wants to tell. So I'll let him decide that. And my wife, my lovely wife, thank you for the welcome. Vivian, thank you. Kavi, good to see you, sir. Live from the Comic Art Closet. What's up, Ruben and Dino? Watching on the big screen. Nice. In and out of the chat while multitasking. Sounds good, sir. Good to see you, man. And Jason Ladwig. Hey, what is up, sir? Spartan strong, baby. And hey, there we go. Always a nice day for a Jeff wedding. Thank you for dropping by, my friend. Ricky Welch, the Rickster. He heard Falcons are going to be going back on the endangered list. Dino's been hunting them to extinction. Nice. Always good with the quips, Rick. I love it. I love it. Yes, there you go. There's the Falcon for you. Awesome. Number one Marvel fan. So, all right, Dino's the best thing to happen here yet. Wow. Now, that's high praise. Wow. He's going to have to live up to it. Mr. Easy-Go-Lucky, hello to you, sir. Thank you, as always, for dropping in. And good day to you, sir. David Barr, all the way from Oz, as always. And as always, I must tell you, please do not get fired on my account. So, good day to you. Good day to Dino. Very, very excited. Always love seeing you here, my friend. And CJ, what is up, sir? Good evening to everybody. Hello to you as well. And of course, Vivian. I'm sure she's probably already said hello to you. Yeah, of course she has. There she. There you go. You guys can have your own private little side convo. And good day, governor. I think that would be British, not Australian. Let me see. Desi and Billy. Oh man, I'm missing that one, CJ. Desi or Naz? I don't. Who are you talking about? Desi and Billy? You lost me. You lost me. Thanks, bro. But you've seen it before. I'm pretty sure you've seen it before. I've worn it, I think, on one or two shows. Thank you, Mr. Easy-Go-Lucky. Really, really appreciate it. And there he is, my friend Patrick Rains, also a friend of Dino's. What's up, sir? Good to see you, man. Thank you for dropping in. And there you are, Mr. Radjack. Yes, I am here in case you start to drag. Oh, yeah, you're going to liven it up. You'll remind me. The other half of the cap used to have Aranga too. It did not. It did not. What is he? But Aranga changes his username too much. That is true. That's true. I don't like when anybody changes their username too much. You can't keep track of who's who. It's kind of annoying. But memory sucks with stuff like well, okay, but I'm telling you, I wore it before, but there's proof, there's video proof of it. Just in general. That's cool, dude. That's cool. But I'm glad to see you here. Appreciate it. Thanks everybody for dropping in again. As I said, this is going to be fun. Looking forward to showing some really cool art tonight. And of course, for me at least, I am looking more forward to listening to Dino talk about the art. And of course, for any of you watching who are newer collectors, which I always really like to try to welcome as much as possible to the shows that I do. I just want you to understand the type of art that Dino collects is more on the higher end side, yes, but I want you all to know the reason I have had, for those of you who already have seen me do it, I have had plenty of younger, newer collectors on the show. It's because I want the hobby to be more inclusive. And I know that younger, newer collectors tend to be, I don't know how to say it. They shy away. You guys get intimidated by collectors who have, the much more expensive art, the Silver Age or Bronze Age or what have you. But you know what? It's all good. There's great art to collect from all decades. So just want you all to you newer guys to not feel intimidated. And yeah, just come in and enjoy it. There's plenty of people who don't care about the older stuff that Dino collects, right? And only collect about the new stuff. So no intimidation. And this way, you newer guys will be more susceptible to saying yes to me when I ask you to come on the show, and I'll showcase your more contemporary collections. All right, so there we go. Who's the newbie tonight? The newbie is some guy called, I don't know, Dinosaur, whatever. We'll see him pretty soon anyways. People, of course, as usual, want to claim Dino. Yeah, you can only afford him on a 4-year payment plan. Nice one. That is good. But that's true, CJ. Exactly. The art is art, and exactly. Absolutely, for sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Easy Go Lucky. And I'm sure Dino has some cool, affordable pieces in the collection too. He actually does. I mean, I've seen them, and he has sold them and shown them, and yeah. So absolutely. So all right, guys, let us move on with the show. Why not? Let me bring the masterful collector himself to the show, Dino Mauricio.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, Ruben, how you doing, buddy? How are you?
Doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm
Good.
As you can tell, I got that big smile. I'm all happy and excited,
Oh yeah,
So
and welcome. Good evening, everyone. A lot of good friends in the chat. A lot of names, familiar ones. Just a strong, representation from the community. A lot of new names too. So welcome. We're gonna have some fun tonight.
So yeah, exactly. I mean, a lot of you obviously, what Dino collects. It's not like you're going to be completely unfamiliar with some of the art, of course. Just so you know, not that it matters, but just so you know, usually my in-studio friends are, I tell them, like I ask them, hey, can you just pick the pieces or whatever? And they do. Very rarely is it me who picks, but this is one of the very, very rare times where I picked. I just wanted to make it a little bit easier on Dino, not have him waste too much time, doing homework for the show.
Well, it makes it a pop quiz for me because I don't know which ones he's chosen, and he can tell me if I really remember the piece. And by the way, thanks for the introduction. You guys have known I've been collecting since 2004, and over the years I've been able to really pick up some really cool stuff. But again, a lot of things I buy are kind of ones that I intend to keep for a long time, and they may be viewed as what you said high end now, but remember when I was buying them over the years, they weren't necessarily high end at the time.
Yeah, much
I try
more
to pick
affordable
things that I know that I can kind of enjoy for many years, and when you do that, you do get things that over time do tend to appreciate really well. And lucky, as a lot of people have, really fortunate not to have let stuff go. Really more so than finding the right treasures. So
yeah, exactly. Stevie B in the hizzy. Yeah, no problem, dude. Whenever you gotta go, you go like usual. Say bye, and that'd be awesome. But watch what you can and watch the rest on replay. That'd be cool, man. Thank you so much for tuning in. Really appreciate it. Yeah, let's start off with a question real quick. Why don't we, Dino? Because a newbie has entered the chat. His name is Marcus Way. I've never seen this guy before.
Hey, Marcus, what's going on, man?
But why does he collect what he does? Wow, I don't know. He wants you. I think he wants you to get deep on that. I don't know.
You collect. I'm so passionate about the hobby and the art, and I feel like every time I get a piece that I can really cherish, it's a wonderful feeling. And I think what I collect, I collect things that are very nostalgic, things that bring me back to my childhood. I think Patrick Rains is in the chat. I grew up in Nashville, where he's from, and just started with comics at from 9 years old or 8 years old, and then eventually moved to art when I guess 2003, and then went at 2006. I basically sold my entire my golden age collection and a lot of silver age stuff, and really went art full time. And it was the right thing to do. I mean, the art is one that it's not so much about the pieces, it's the journey and the network and the friends that you get to meet, and the whole sharing of excitement around somebody else getting a piece that they appreciate, and they certainly shout out when I get a piece that I can celebrate. So I've just been really blessed, as many of you have, just being part of this community. And I try to post regularly. Not everything I have is online. I think and I'll go through some numbers before. I basically have about 140 40 pieces online. So, Ruben had to pick his 20 out of that. But I do have a fairly good stuff that I keep private, and I do share with friends that come to visit me in my house. But, I like to post regularly so I can stay busy with the chats and the hobbies. So.
Yeah, and let me just say, everybody, in regards to having picked the pieces, like Dino just said, yes, I ended up, I just said, hey, once he told me, yes, okay, I'm in. And I kind of said, hey, look, I'll pick the pieces so I can sort of get the show going, right? Start, picking out. Because the most time consuming part for me is once I get the artwork, then I got to go online and search for the colored, the printed versions, right? As you guys know how I do my slides, I like to have the original with the color. That's the most time consuming thing.
Full service host. Now Ruben goes all out to make things really well, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate it. Yeah. And I think people, if they've told me privately and they like it that way, they like to be able to see the publish next to it or whatever, So
but I'll tell you that half the I don't know which 20 you picked, but chances are half the pieces you picked I acquired from other collectors directly on CAF or through the network. The other half was probably from auctions or through trades and stuff, or from dealers. And they do go all across the genres. I mean, I'll tell you, my sweet spot, as is probably 70s and early 80s. So I think 73 to 78 is a sweet spot for me. 82 to 86 is a very, very big sweet spot to me. And then I went through the 90s, early 90s, 92, 94, with the Valiants and those. I mean, that was and the X-Men going through at the time, that was very formative for me. And through a lot of other collectors telling me about what artists to follow that are more modern within the last 5-6 years, I've been able to learn tons. So I owe a lot of my education for modern art to a lot of folks here on the chat. So.
Cool.
And yeah, I do try to get art and artists that speak to me and continue to grow my collection.
Cool. Jason wants to know if you have any art background or if you just developed your appreciation of the art as a comic collector.
Good question. I don't have a formal art background, but I've always been a fan of art, of museums, of fine art, of sculpture. I actually used to collect antique maps, large old 1800 maps where they didn't really know what the topography was. In fact, some of them have California as an island, before the 1850s. So I went through that, and I really appreciated the intricate drawings and engravings that were on some of those old maps.
How did you I'm familiar with that, but how did you in particular sort of fall into that?
Well, because I am a history buff. So that's one thing that I enjoy. Is I started reading Greek mythology and the history of civilization and the Roman times. I watched Gladiator 50 times, as most people do. I watched Spartacus. I studied kind of the Roman civilization and then American history, and I collected autographed and historical documents for a long time, and I'm a big sports fan, so I did a lot of historical artifacts at sports, signed jerseys and cards and things like that. But I will say that since 2004, it's been original art. I mean, I don't have any iota to collect anything else, and I'm spoiled because there's no way any of us can find the same type of passion and network and type of the thrill of the hunt that you have here with original art.
Fantastic. Just another question by that newbie from before, Marcus whatever his name is. Did you ever get annoyed with Ruben when you did collector conversations? He wants to
never. I mean, if you all remember, Sundays were the days for collector conversations, and what was great was a lot of it was unstructured, and we were able to just talk about things that are meaningful to everyone joining. And I think what makes Ruben really unique and great is he speaks his mind, and I think you learn a lot from someone being honest about their opinions. Now I know Ruben and I have debated a lot of things, and we don't we have different opinions on a lot of things in the hobby, but we also have a lot of common ground too. But that's the beauty of it all. That's the beauty. And being in the chat, I'm sure I've had numerous conversations. No charts tonight, though. I'll try to keep it just vocal. But I do like the science of collecting. I spend a great deal about thinking about how to optimize kind of auction success, how to think about managing a collection. I mean, you all have seen this. I've got my 2-page laminated card that basically has my collection that I can as a cheat sheet. I kind of have it for trades or when people make offers. I kind of know my collection in hand. I kind of like to think of myself as, you look at the Super Bowl that just happened and the offensive coordinator has all the plays and he's looking at what Mahomes going to throw. I kind of think I have to do it. I think anyone in this hobby should be prepared to know their collection well and be able to go out and find opportunities. And if that means, selling to buy or trading or knowing what to prioritize on some of the auction targets, I think that is a great thing to have. And by the way, this is one of the best times of the year. I mean, yeah, it's great to buy stuff. It's great to manage a collection, but with 3 auctions coming up, 2 Heritage, Comic Connect, Comic Link, they're all in previews. So you get this, and I don't know if many of you do this, but I kind of figure out what my targets are and try to prioritize. And then I get this lottery fever. It's kind of like when you buy a lottery ticket, it's not going to pay off, but you get to dream. You get to think, okay, what if it broke my way and I was able to get these 3 or 4 pieces and add that to my collection? It never happens because of the way the market has grown and values are just shocking at times. But now's the time that you can kind of think and dream and really think. For me, it's about prioritizing, making sure I get the right targets on the board.
I just wanted to let you know, Dino, that I had posted Mark Fong. He said that Mark, he also collected old maps as well, and the more inaccurate, the nicer.
Exactly. I loved it. There were some maps that had they had areas where they couldn't even map the western part of the U.S. or parts of southern Europe, and they would just have dragons, and they would create sea monsters in the ocean because they didn't know what the hell was there.
Sea monsters.
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Hey, Jordan, mahalo.
Aloha, buddy. Jordan.
Aloha.
And being a history buff, it's great to be in a hobby where one can actually own a piece of history. That's interesting.
That's right. These are all historical artifacts. And actually, as you know, I bring a lot of folks to come and I share my collection with visitors that aren't necessarily in the hobby. And the way I like to characterize these are one of a kind historical artifacts that are meaningful because they represent something that has a great deal of nostalgia, and that's where the value comes, or at least personal value, right? Is that I can connect that with those books that I read or those stories, or now the movies. I think that's great for all of us.
Absolutely. It's funny because my friend, I will mention names. He'll because he'll be likely watching and listening this on repeat, on rewind. My friend Fred
Chamberlain.
Massa.
Okay.
Out in Belgium. But now you made me lose the point of what I was.
Okay, don't lose it.
Sorry, what were you just saying? What did you just finish saying? I lost my train of thought.
We were saying that the auctions and the previews and trying to figure out what to do, and that historical artifacts, that it's a pop icon. Everyone's a pop treasure that people.
Okay, well, you know what? When it comes to me, I'll mention it. But Fred, you just saved yourself some embarrassment. That's okay.
But throughout the show, if there's anything anyone wants to talk about, I'm happy to chat and even ask you guys questions.
Yeah, there you go. The beauty is in the debate, right?
I totally agree. I mean, the best when we get these comic meetups in the New York area, you always have collectors that are, you have a group of 20+ collectors and the newbies, and then you have folks that are specialized on early Silver Age, and then the modern collectors, and they can kind of share and talk stories and celebrate pieces among one another. I think that's what makes this a great hobby, is that everyone really can take their own path to what makes them happy. And some people, it's certain type of art. Sometimes it's a narrow focus on some artists or some characters, and others like to have a broad representation of things. And I think that's just wonderful. And I love that.
You know what, Dino? Now that the show has gone on 20 minutes, and we've just been doing nothing but chatting, and time flies when we chat.
It does.
Now I'm starting to ask myself if I should regret changing the idea of you being here from the original hangout, which we could have done nothing but chatting for 2 hours plus.
But I hear you. But I will mention before we start looking at art that for some of you that don't know the acronym Falcon, this was something that I not developed. I kind of made it as a cheat sheet for me to help identify pieces that would be a good fit with what I like and my collection. And kind of this is it. This is
hold on, Dino. Just for the newer people coming in. Yes. Let me put the graphic back up so they can see it. Give them a few seconds just so they can read it and understand.
Funny. Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Everybody read that for yourselves. Okay. Let me get Mr. Red Jack's comment. I'll put it back up there, Mr. Red Jack. So he says, when Ruben and I go shopping, I always get the most beautiful pieces. This one's name is Alita. Of course, Alita referring to the character in the background. She's a real Falcon. And then I say, he finds an Alita and I'm left with this guy? Falcon my butt. This piece is for the birds. So the whole Falcon thing, this is what Dino is about to say to you. So let me just get this back off. And now, yes, go ahead, Dino, and explain.
So again, as you know, many know, for a long time, I actually went after what I called A-level panel pages and splashes. And I think there's so many varieties in terms of what makes for a good quality panel page. But when I moved to splashes and covers, I kind of had to think about, what was the kind of, what type of art really appealed to me. And I think this made it very easy for me to quickly check off what I liked. And that is kind of full figure or full team, action, large, central, original costume, and notable artist. And it just happened to come up with Falcon. I thought it's easy but that way, and again, knowing that I'm a one and done artist, a one and done collector, which means if I have something, an example, I don't try to get 4 or 5 of the same example. I kind of can move on and try for other things. Once I find my Falcon, then I could basically move on to other priorities. And that's why I really needed some sort of focus. Otherwise, as you know, there's a lot of squirrels, there's a lot of things that's really cool, and you kind of just start adding more and more and more. And I did that early on in my collecting career, but really quickly started focusing on, what is the kind of long-term keepers that I can really enjoy having. And it's worked for me. So
Mr. Easy-Go-Lucky loves your enthusiasm, and I think Brian, that we all do, and that's why it's fun to listen to you talk. Yeah, the artwork is like modern day folklore. Exactly, Rick.
That's right.
Very well said. We're up in Stain. What's up, buddy? Heritage waited 2 weeks to calculate my shipping, then shipped it to me for free yesterday. So I'm confused now. Nice.
I don't know. Maybe yeah, they're really backed up in terms of their shipping, and they've been sending some free shipping to
Oh, so you've heard this happening? Yeah. You've heard of this? Oh, interesting. I should probably get my order. I should tell them to ship my order now.
We'll see. I'm just hearing things on the grapevine.
Okay. No, because I've got stuff. I've just been sort of delaying it, telling them to ship it. But I'm thinking, okay, if they're overwhelmed, maybe
Canada's a little logistically tougher, Ruben. So maybe they'll
they'll make sure they charge those nasty Canadian. Yeah. Matthew Fox. Okay, so I've seen your name, but not as a regular on my chat. So welcome, first of all. Do you know Matthew Fox by any chance?
I know the name. I've been seeing him in chat. So he's asking about the ones we talked about: California, Antarctica. That they didn't know how big Antarctica was. There's some that have Antarctica kind of just as the North Pole, same size as Iceland and Greenland. But that's one of the last continents to be fully discovered. So they didn't even know the coastline or where it was relative to some of the countries that we were aware of. So yeah, I like that. I like looking back and saying, wow, those guys were in the dark in terms of what the world looked like back then. And I think to relate it to comic art, I think when we were starting out in the early 2000s, it was an unknown frontier. You know, it wasn't necessarily as prevalent as did it. Lot less visibility on kind of the internet and buying, particularly in the 90s. I mean, you always hear the wild days where the hobby was just forming and folks were sending faxes to each other trying to strike deals. I love the fact that we've advanced as a hobby, but we always look back at those formative years and say, you know what, they were onto something. And the stuff that they were trading back then, if they were lucky enough to keep it, would be big treasures today. So.
Well said. CJ wants to know your feelings on pencils only art.
I prefer, I mean, again, I like art for the aesthetic value as well, being able to look at it and view it. And my only issue with pencils is, unless it's really tight pencils, as we like to say, it's really hard to see what I'm looking at. That said, I have a couple of artists that do pencils only that's on my want list, and I think I will have them targeted within the next couple of years.
If everybody would please hit the like button if you haven't done so, that would be really
likes are good. Likes are good.
Thanks, sir. Thanks. It just helps the algorithm find that there's more activity, and it tells YouTube, oh, okay, there's more likes. Okay, maybe we'll put this video in front of some other potential people who may like it. That's all. No skin off your back, so that'd be nice. Thank you so much.
That's right. Appreciate it.
Let me go to, I saw some other comments here. A lot of them came in. So let me see. So there was Matthew again. First of all, that's a great way to keep your purchasing focused. I need to work on my Falcon.
Yeah, I mean, again, whatever you have, I think everyone should kind of articulate what is it that they really gravitate to. And that I mean, I will tell you that early on in my career, I kept on seeing stuff that I bought because I thought was great. And then I found something better or found something that fit it better, and I had to sell or flip it or trade it. And I think there was a lot of wasted motion there. And as I get older, I mean, I'm mid 50s now, and I'm kind of back end of my collecting. I just can't afford to churn many times, you know, as much as I can when I was younger. So it's important to me to find pieces that really fit. And that helps me. I mean, I don't have to kind of, I think churning is good early on because you get to learn about what you like to buy. And when you get the art, you kind of can own it and look at it for a while. And if it continues to give you joy, then you hit a home run. But if it doesn't, it starts to wane, or you start to look at, well, did I get the right piece? You know, like I see some others and I'm tempted to try to get something else in that same, by that same artist and character, then you're kind of like, okay, well, should I'm trying to avoid that. So, you know, I try to get pieces where I get it and I'm done and I can move on. And that's helped me a lot. And particularly now at this stage in my career, when I'm not as actively buying, it's important for me to be able to focus.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, like we always say, whatever works for each individual collector, right? If that's what works for you now, that's working for you. So I just needed to tell you, Mikhail wanted to know if you participated in tube stock. I don't know. What's he talking about?
I don't know what tube stock is. Sounds like a YouTube and Woodstock put together. That's when
yeah, right. Like, what are you talking about? I'm sure he'll let us know, though, if he's still listening. And yeah, I know, I'm going back to what he said earlier about we probably should have just made this a hangout chat thing or whatever. It isn't a bad idea to just chat. I know. But then I did all the work and we switched it to a show and tell. Oh, well.
We can chat. Once the art's up there, we can also chat around those, too. I think they'll trigger a lot of things that I'd like to comment on, and certainly some questions and stuff that you guys want to talk about. I think it's pretty broad representation, but we'll leave it to Ruben. Hopefully he had a good his draft picks to discuss were well chosen, and we'll have a lot of good topics.
You know what's crazy, Dino, is that it's not even really like, usually it's me blabbing and extending the show so long, right? But it's like these guys that keep asking you questions. I'm like, that's what I'm like. Oh my God, we should have just left it as a hangout chat thing, you know?
Yeah, we were going to do that, but I think the last two shows, everyone was saying, hey, let's talk about art. Where's the art?
Right.
You know, so Ruben and I thought we'd put some pieces, and we don't have to go through all 20. We'll just go through it, and you know,
we'll see. We'll take it as it goes. We'll see how it goes.
All right.
So, Mr. Red Jack, what are your thoughts? He says on restoration of artwork, and you know what? Has it ever stopped you from buying something you like answer this one quickly, just because, Mr. Red Jack, I have something coming up next week that will tie into this that we'll talk about later. So
yeah, I'm not a big fan of restoration. I think if you preserve and protect your art, then you really don't have to restore it. I mean, we're okay with, you know, with it's not perfect. It's going to have stains that were, you know, from the production process. It's going to have pencil marks. It's going to have sometimes you know, corners or nicked, but that's the whole beauty of it. It's one of a kind, and it is what it is. So I think it's, you know, with restoration, I try not to do anything that's not reversible. The only things I do, you know, is really to enhance the visibility of the art, which means putting overlays or things. But yeah, I try not to do any I mean, compared to some of the other hobbies like the comics and coins and, you know, restorate maps, even you have a lot of restoration out there. I'm a purist when it comes to art.
You know what, Dino, I had to put Ron's comment on.
Yeah.
Ron. Hey, Ron, by the way, good to see you this evening. Thank you for coming in. Ron is a commission and sketch cover collector,
Yeah, I know Ron.
exclusively, right? So we know each other from, we met on Nikki B's show on Friday afternoons or evenings. And so, yeah, so it's fun. What an interesting comment that.
Well, I love that, Ron. I think, you know, when I talk about buying art that feeds my nostalgia for certain books I've read, I think as a commission and sketch cover, you're actually creating your nostalgia on the fly. When you do a commission, it's very personal. It's something that you've co-created with the artist. And in a sense, your interaction with that artist, whether it's at a convention or through the mail or just on the phone or just describing or going back and forth on prelims, and I think that's your experience. And whenever you get that piece, the beauty of it, it's not just the art, but it's the experience that you did to kind of co-create that or have the artist create that for you. And I think that's the experience that you're getting with each of the commissions. So that's the way to do it. I think that's a good substitute for not reading the books, and maybe it'll inspire to go read more of the old stuff, more of the books based on the characters you like.
I don't know who Kavya was talking about, because of course I'm behind on the comments, but he said somebody was being a cheeky mother Falcon. That's a pretty clever one. I'll give it to you, Kavi. That's really clever, man.
He's part of the New York City scene. Hey, Kavi. Got a good group up here.
That's awesome. What are you talking about? Look, Mike says my calf is cobwebs. What are you trying to say there? That you don't use it because you don't buy enough art anymore? Is that what you're trying to say? So it's growing cobwebs? I don't know if I believe that, but
yeah, there's when people look at their wardrobes, for example, and there's always this axiom that if you don't see something, if you haven't worn something in 2 years or then throw it away, right? I think a comic collection or art collection is very similar. If you don't pick it up and look at it and appreciate it and in some ways celebrate the fact that you have it, then you can consider that in your kind of war chest pile to kind of trade or sell to kind of get stuff that you'll really appreciate. So I mean, you say cobwebs. What I like to say, look at your collection. If there's some things that don't exactly excite you as they did when you bought it, then use it to leverage it and find something that does. And if it means going from a bigger collection to a smaller collection that you love more, I think you've done yourself a service. So I'm all about the kind of how the joy that you get from them. And
sorry, well said, Dino. I just needed to put these guys. That's what I love about my show is all these guys are always constantly joking around and making fun of each other.
Brian's just such a witty Falcon and the Snowman.
Yeah, that's cool. A good one. I had to give him credit for that. So there you go, Brian. And Rick, I don't know if you noticed the one I put up with Rick. I have Falcon taste on a chicken budget. That's good, man.
Well, let me mention. So Falcon was one when if you Google me and my Golden Age cover collection when I was collecting comics, it was all about classic covers. It was the covers that everyone wanted to have, and I felt that was kind of a safe, not only investment, but it was really fun to chase them down. It wasn't just it was one or two issues in a big run, and those are the ones that I focused on. I think art's for me is the same way. When I first started, I was thinking about what are the pieces that tend to hold value and get coveted very highly over time. and they tend to be the things that I have on the Falcon list. And it's an ideal, because not everything gets check marked on everything, but at least I think if you get many of those, if you get those elements into your collection, it's not that they're better than others. I think they just have more universal appeal, which means if I pass them down or to another generation, or I sell them, or I put them on auction, I think it caters to, let's say, the wider breadth of audiences that would demand that piece. So hey, but a lot of people now, they want first appearances, and they want stuff that's oversized, large art. There's a lot of ways to kind of create value or find value in pieces. I just have that one that served me well, and I'm sure everyone has their approach that they can lean on as well. So
Comic Art Boston says that, Dino, unfortunately for nostalgic books, I am not one and done, and it becomes expensive and unreal. Do you have that problem occasionally as well?
Yeah, I thanks for the question. I've read so many comics. In fact, there's so many stories I remember that if I looked at just stuff that's nostalgic, I'd be done, because it would just go everywhere. So I think it's important to know what's nostalgic that you remember, but also what is nostalgic because they really make you feel great, or it brings some sort of emotion around about remembering that story or reliving it. And each piece of art, you can actually, it makes you think about those stories in a different way. You're owning a piece of a story or a book that you remember fondly, and if you can get that, I think it goes well to appreciating the art.
Let me, you know what, Dino? Excuse me for this. Everybody, okay, listen up here. I'm gonna listen. I've always said I'm always willing to experiment with my show, right? It's not network television, so I can afford to. I'm just gonna put this out there to you, Dino, to you first, because you're the nice one who came and did this with me. But also at the same time, depending on what you say, also this goes out to the audience. If you guys want, if everybody wants, because it's the way this is going, this feels like we could do the entire show as a hangout chat, and I'm loving it, believe me. And we can just do it that way. At the end of the show tomorrow, I'll swap out the graphic thumbnail. I'll to make the branded again as a chat, so people on Rewind see it as a chat, and I can have you come back whenever you're a little bit down the road, and we'll do strictly, we'll make everybody shut up with the questions. I'll shut up as much as I can.
Well, questions are good. I'll do whatever the chat wants. I do think that if we go through the art, it'll raise the questions with
I know they will. I know they will. The problem is there's so much interactivity, just questions that don't even have to do with artwork we're showing.
Right. Okay.
I think it's just going to extend the time way longer than normally would, and we're going to have to blow through the artwork a lot more quickly than I.
Or we can just do 8 to 10 pieces, or we can do 6 to 8, or we can do it that way. You typically do that, right?
It's up to
I think with your Hangouts,
yeah. 6 to 8. Yeah, exactly. Well, anyways, you guys heard me, so you guys can let me know in the chat whatever whether you want to keep it going this way, or if you'd like to show some art. Let us know. But in the meantime, because there's tons of questions and comments, and I'm just like, I want to get to the art because that's what we were gonna do, but I don't want to. I'm gonna have to skip a lot of comments and questions in order to do that, And I hate, these guys know I hate doing that, right? They're very important to me, So
I think I'm getting art. So why don't we start with the art? If we go to a conversation after that, we'll go where people.
Okay, sounds good to me. Let me just remember. Let me try to find where we are on the comments so I can later come back to them. Sorry if I've skipped some good ones, people. Sorry, I didn't really expect that you'd all be doing Q&A. I figured it'd be Q&A maybe about the art we'd show.
That's what makes this community special. We're all passionate about this stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. Let's go, everyone. Let's start off with the first piece. All right. What thoughts come to mind when I show you this one, Dino?
Okay, this is Barry Woodsner Smith and John Romita.
Starlin.
Starlin. I'm sorry, Starlin and John Reed. So Khazar, for some reason, it was just I loved reading about the Savage Land, and this is a cover that obviously has Zabu and Khazar jumping out of a comic page, and it is a stat what they did with the around it, but it's Starlin and I think Romita did the faces, the face, and some inking around Khazar. But what I loved about this was it just showed these two characters coming out of a comic page. It was again mid 70s, 73 or 74 if I remember right. And it was a cover that I loved back in my in my collecting days. What's great is it was one of the ones that start the concept, the giant size X-Men one that were they're busting through the page and the new X-Men are coming through. I think this is an example of how effective this could be as an art technique. It has nothing to do with the story. It's really more celebrating these two characters, Zabu and Khazar, really busting through a comic page, which I thought was breaking the what they call breaking the fourth world,
the fourth wall.
Fourth wall.
I gotta admit, ever since I first got into comics as a 12-year-old, it was one of the first I guess tropes, and you can call them now, where some of the characters or one of the characters on the cover is ripping, tearing, smashing otherwise through the cover. I mean, it was just so cool, especially when you see it as a kid. It's like, wow.
When you see it on a spinner rack, you can't help but pick something like this up. It's not one where you have to read a lot of word bubbles and understand what's going on. It's like, okay, here's Khazar and his cat, and they're on an adventure, and it was pretty stunning coming out.
Yeah, very, very cool. Oh, by the way, I just wanted to say thank you, Matthew, for reminding me that you came on to see Tony's shows. So this is only your second one. And I'm sorry, Dino, Matthew mentioned up here, here we go, that this is his second show he's jumped on. First was to see my friend Tony. These are a great watch. So I'm really happy there.
Tony was a great show.
Glad to see you drop in again, Matthew. Thank you. Yeah. So, okay. So fantastic. Yeah. I love it. Yeah. These not only rip, and in this case, it's not only I'm ripping through the cover and jumping at you. I love the fact that it's ripping through the cover, but that the background is a whole series of panels that exist from other comics in the past,
Yeah, I thought that was so cool. And this is when John Romita was named art director for Marvel. So it was Starlin's cover, but he actually went in and did some fine tuning. I think he did work on the face. So to have him as part of the inking, I thought was special for that issue.
Yeah. Really cool.
Good choice, Ruben.
I'm sure you'll think they're all good choices because it's all pretty cool art, But we'll see what everybody else thinks. But okay, so the next one is a classic and favorite of many people. Crisis on Infinite Earths, number 10, page 20, inked by Jerry Ordway. I don't have to say who penciled it, obviously.
Yeah, so Perez, everyone loves Crisis on Infinite. It was the first big miniseries that had shock value. I mean, the fact that you had this mega villain, that you had all the DC heroes come together to fight the Anti-Monitor was just mind-boggling to me when it came out. This is in the 1985. I graduated in high school in '86, so this was the storyline that really spoke to me. Now, one thing, as many of you know, I like unicorn pages. I like pages that you can say, you know what, this has something pretty cool about it that may differentiate it from a lot of the pages. So this is a page that has when the 50 DC heroes came together to kind of join their forces to battle the Anti-Monitor. I mean, it was pretty much a climactic event for the miniseries. And that panel that you see there it's when they all kind of, not just Wonder Twin powers activate, but 50 heroes just come together to see what they can do. And I thought it was just so memorable. And I waited years to find the right Crisis page. There's some splashes and covers that are way more valuable than this one. But what I do like about it is the joining of all the forces, and it just had a lot of elements that were wonderful to me. I mean, just the join all the heroes there. So when you try to get a full team of the DC heroes, trying to get as many as many characters as possible. This is one of them, and who's better at doing that than Perez, right? Being able to take multiple heroes on one page in action and make it sing.
No, absolutely, yeah, and it was I felt sort of similar as you to what you said about, you waited a long time to try to get the right crisis page or whatever. And I don't own one myself, but I spent so many years blowing them off on purpose. And some great ones, because I fell into that trap where, you're seeing them all and, they weren't rare by any means. And I fell into that trap where it was like, well, they're not rare. So I can always wait for an even better one. And then I would see like a really good one. I'd be like, it's really good.
So Matthew asked which one I regretted. So this is my first attempt to go after a crisis page. It was actually a DPS. I think it was from issue 2. It had the globes up top. It said crisis on it and had 15 heroes in it. It was a double page spread, just perfectly inked and drawn by Perez. That was the one I wanted. Didn't quite bring it home, but I regretted not going more after that one because I thought there would be more, and those things aren't necessarily good. Don't come around as often. So
excellent. Just want to say, hey, Hoarder's Hide. That's Scott Brown. He will be my guest 2 weeks from now.
Hoarder's Hide. All right.
2 weeks from now, and a contemporary collector of whom, like I was speaking of earlier. So I like to mix it up. The newer collectors, vintage, older collectors, like you and me, and that's it. It's fun for everybody, and we should all sort of, try to learn to sort of respect and enjoy what each other has.
Amen. Amen.
Just wanted to put this up because Mike Snitzer saying hello with a long message.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, no, Mike and I got to talk. I actually suggested that he join this show and listen in and learn a lot. And I think he's been up for a while, so it's good to see you, Mike.
Cool. So he says, do you share your wants with friends in the hobby so they don't bid you up, or you don't do you keep it to yourself? Like, right, a lot of people,
I do keep it to myself, but what I do know is I know folks in the hobbies that specialize in what I'm going after, and I'll sometimes reach out to them and say, look, is this something you're going to be going hard for? And if it is, I'll back off. But there are natural collectors for almost everything you go after, so you're going to be competing against friends and folks you don't even know, and so no matter where you turn. But I do try to keep a list of those who are focused in particular artists or titles or genres, and if I think they're the natural buyer, I'll reach out and let them know that I'm interested in this, and seeing if I'm not, if they want it more than I do, then I'll back off. And if I tell them this is what I need or I really want, then hopefully I can convince them to at least have a go. And sometimes it's like, okay, we both like it. Let's we'll see it we'll battle out on the mat, and that's great as well. So.
Cool. West, how are you, sir? West wants to know apparently that he's using that old 1-800 shake weight. Shake weight. For those of you who remember the SNL little skit they did on shake weight. Okay, that's for you.
Right. Hey West, how you doing?
And thank you, Jason. So Jason Ladwig, let me put this up. So several minutes ago when I had asked, hey, what do you guys prefer we do? He's saying, no, mix it up. Show us 5 pieces, and then we will chat some more.
We'll chat all night.
Right, but that's my point, is that just so you know, that will probably make us not be able to show most of the art, is kind of what I'm saying. So I feel bad if, you wanted to show your art, and that's the whole kind of point what we decided on. So I feel bad either way. But whatever everybody wants to do, but especially you, Dino, since you wanted to be here, right? So, but yeah, let's. Why don't we go?
I've waited for football season to end, Ruben. We'll have a free Sunday.
That helps now, right? Yeah, I must admit, I feel a little bit less stressed now on Sundays about all the games that I'm missing. I'm just like, okay, good. At least now I don't have to worry about that, And of course, Stanley is coming in. He's the time master in these shows. No, stick with the show and tell. Just make exactly. If it's up to Stanley, we'll be here for 17 hours. That's the thing. Yeah, exactly. So, and Kavi does want to see the art. You prepared the show. Yeah, very good. And Matthew's feeling bad. I'll shut up with the questions. But okay,
All good, Matthew.
just gotta read the comments quicker. Okay. All right. Let's go to the next piece. Why don't we then? So the next one, oh yeah, okay. So this one, I'm gonna have to toggle, guys. You guys remember? Was
I'll
it
make
last week
Ruben do some work.
Before?
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna toggle back and forth because these double page splashes.
Okay.
They told me they wanted to see it on 2 different slides, and I'll toggle back and forth. So this is what we're gonna do. So here's this, right? And then I got this.
Okay, so this is, of course, Daredevil Man Without Fear, one of the greatest stories of the Daredevil lore. This is the only page, or DPS, that he actually appears in costume. Right at the end, he kind of declares that he's going to go out and become a superhero, and he puts this on. What this is great is it's large art, so it's actually oversized DPS. It's got his old costumes in the back, so you can see his the different variations on his costume. And this was, one of JR's, best works. He this is featured in the interview he has on YouTube. This became a trade paperback cover and used on a lot of advertisements for the series. And I actually have this right above me. I look at it over my desk every day, and really, really proud to have this one. Again, it's Falcon. It's all Daredevil in 18 by 26 art, and it's just a beautiful. What I also like about it, and it's JR and Al Williamson, but it's also Frank Miller in the writing, and I think the writers do contribute to how the story is told and how it connects with readers, and certainly it helps the art as well, because it gives direction on how they should draw the characters. So I think that collaboration of 3 legendary artists really came together for something very, very special.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say, and I know this is probably sacrilege to, fans of this. I did want to say that for me, I mean, I was like most people back then, huge Frank Miller fan, the whole Daredevil run, that whole thing, right? But I loved John Romita Jr., Al Williamson, the whole thing, right? For me, my memory, and I only read that series when it came out, never reread it. For me, though, oh God, I can't even tell you the disappointment when I read that series. I don't remember anything about it, but that's not to say that it's because it's bad. I don't really remember much of anything I read 30 whatever years.
The way I look at that is it's very similar to Batman year 1.
No, I love that.
He's not in costume the whole time. No, it's more of it's an origin story, but kind of gets into his psyche and why he wants to become a hero. It obviously goes through his neighborhood and Hell's Kitchen, the death of his dad, and how he trained. But he never even appears in costume till the very end in 5 issues. So I think that's what makes people a bit less tied to the series, because it doesn't really, you don't like pick it up and see a lot of art or see a lot of pictures of the superhero in costume. But I think it's more of a psychological origin story to get in behind the mind of Matt Murdock and Daredevil. It's kind of like what Frank Miller did with Batman year 1. So that's the way you appreciate it, I think, and you leave the really good kind of splashy images for the other titles.
Yeah, I'm just like I said, I'm just saying.
Hey James, how you doing? Who is the master of the DPS, by the way? He's
there. You go.
He's certainly
he knows it. He knows
expert in this field.
But yeah, no. All I'm saying is, artistically, no problem. And listen, I'm like most people. Like I can buy pieces that even like I've bought plenty of pieces from comics I've never read, so I don't care. I'm just saying it's just an old memory. I remember being just unbelievably disappointed because I guess it was disappointment in the fact that I expected Daredevil, the Man Without Fear, right? And it was more Murdoch, the Man Without Fear, right? It was, right. I don't know. Right. But and like you said, I know what you're saying. It's a good point with the Batman, but with Batman, I loved it. Somehow I was so disappointed with the Daredevil, with the Man Without Fear. Okay. Yeah. But artistically, I loved it. Oh, it's so good. Yeah. Romita Jr. was with Williamson.
But people look at that and it's one of my favorite pieces, and certainly has appreciated in value. But just remember, back when I acquired it, this is 2013, it wasn't in the Heritage Platinum section. It was buried deep in day 3 or day 2 of the auction, and it had a very small picture in it, so people couldn't really see it as well as others. And of course, not a cover, so it's not necessarily as in the high profile. So I thought it's fell between the cracks, and I was kind of glad to put in a bid that brought it home.
Yeah, and interesting. You've had that one since, I think, did you say 2013?
Yeah, I bought it in 2013.
Wow,
From Heritage,
wow.
and
So a few more months, and it'll be the official 10-year anniversary that you've owned it.
Yeah. And I was just saying, back then it wasn't profiled as, wow, here comes the big Daredevil, JRJR masterpiece. It was like, okay, here's a DPS from a series that, like Rubén, maybe not on the tops of people's list, competing with Born Again and the main title, but yeah, it was good at the time. I think this was also before the rise of the graphic novel. So people were focused on the mainline issues, the Daredevils, the Frank Miller Daredevil, right? So this was before you started seeing The Man Without Fear, Infinity Gauntlet, Killing Joke, Watchmen appearing in bookstores. So I think the connection with these stories was less prominent than it is today.
Yeah, Comic Art Boston makes an interesting point. He says there's more human interest. It's more of a human interest type series, right? And for some that would be memorable. True, right. But I don't know. I guess when you're sort of really hardcore into reading your comics, like I used to be back then, you're still in it for superheroes. And it's not that I can't go an issue without seeing the guy get into his costume, right? It's just that when you go issue after issue after issue and you realize, okay, it's never happening. What's happening here? It just seemed so like, why are you doing this? I don't know. I might have to reread it one day.
I would. I would challenge you to read it and think about that origin was not told to that detail. Usually it was a 5-page or 3-page origin in the middle of a mainline issue. Here, this took 5 books to go through the origin. And I think it got into so much detail, and again, the psychic struggles that Matt Murdock went through to get to where he was and why he became a superhero in the first place. It wasn't like, okay, you wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to be a superhero and fight crime. No, it was traumatic. It brought him into, and I think that's the beauty of the story.
I totally get that. And Mark is saying that the genius of DD is that we are actually more invested in the man behind the mask. But I will say to that, the truth is, for me anyway, I'll just speak for myself. For me, what I loved about the rich history of certain characters, for example, like Spider-Man, and which is the reason I believe he has till this day remained the most popular superhero, okay, is because of everything behind the scenes. Right. I certainly always loved, when I was younger, yes, I loved reading that whole Stan Lee, Steve Ditko. Every issue had practically every one had a new villain in it, and I loved all that. But as I got older, and even when I would reread them, I found myself not caring as much about rereading the action scenes. Right. I loved all the drama going on in his personal life. Right, all the problems he had.
And I will argue that that's the connection that we as readers have with the characters that make them so attachable. It's not just, oh, I wish I had a cape like that. No, it's the timid teenager that Peter Parker is. It's the outcast that the X-Men represent. It's the Logan and what he represents in terms of a loner that struggles to be part of a team and but wants to be a noble warrior, right? It's those connections that I think make us really attached to ourselves to those heroes in a way that, the nice costume pictures are nice, but if you really understand the character, I think you can appreciate the superhero in much greater fashion. And that's, I think, some of the fault that I think DC needs to do that with their heroes, particularly in the movies. I think people just know Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman, but trying to understand, why, what are they challenged by? What are they worried about? What are they kind of thinking through? The Clark Kents and the Bruce Waynes and I think that's how DC is going to change their approach to heroes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Marcus says it's the soap opera. Exactly. Right. It's another way of putting it. And Comic Art Boston says Stan was the master of the soap opera. Very true. But this is one last comment by Mark. So we can't all wear a mask and fight villains, but we can stand up for the bullied without fear in everyday life. What a a phenomenal point there, Mark. Thank you so much. You should tune into the shows more often so I can get the benefit of your wisdom. Thank you. But see, this is kind of why I'm saying, when I say that it was so frustrating for me and disappointing, is because exactly, you don't have in that series, right? The Man Without Fear, you didn't have him in costume. So this is why I'm so frustrated that I didn't enjoy it, because typically I am very much that guy who I will actually, no joke, I will flip through, like as I'm reading a comic, if there suddenly comes like a fight scene and I see it's going to last several pages, I often just skip through that. I don't really care about the fight scenes. That's why it's so crazy to me that I don't understand. Like, why didn't I enjoy it? I would think I would have loved it because it wasn't about a bunch of battle scenes. And maybe that's why, like I said,
try to get Ruben.
I should read it again, you know. And
with now that you've been through and read so many stories, I think you'll appreciate it in a different way.
Yeah. Comic Art Boston says, yeah, if I read it now, you might have a quite different view. Exactly. So older and wiser. Exactly. Different times and all that. Yeah. Okay, perfect, everybody. Let us get to the next piece, then, why don't we? And with that, we will go from Daredevil, John Romita Jr., to one of my my beloveds.
Okay.
Certain little nostalgia thing. A lot of people don't care, whatever, except that she became an X-Men. But here we go. Tell me about this, Dino.
Dazzler. Okay, everyone remembers the X-Men run. I think what was hidden in that run was the introduction of so many characters that, and villains that are, renowned today. Daredevil. I'm sorry. Dazzler came in and I think 130, and was a very different superhero. Right? It was leaning toward obviously the female super heroine, the disco and the rollerblades and the flashy white suit. I mean, it was just so different than whatever you can imagine as a superhero being. I think Dazzler in her early issues, actually, they Marvel had to introduce other characters to make it more interesting. So
Right.
Galactus was there, Hulk was there. They knew she was part of the X-Men lore, but in order to bring her book to life, they introduced a number of heavyweight heroes to kind of support that title. This is one that I think was interesting to me. One, it's a great image, one of the largest images of Dazzler in the book. It's JR, so his lines are very tight. It shows her using her power, right? The whole disco lights and stuff. And what's interesting is 90% of the pages you'll have in the first 10 issues actually have her with her blue mask.
Yes.
It kind of makes it odd to look at her as a person, and she's more kind of cloaked behind that mask. So I thought when this came out, it was one that had her, no makeup, basically in full form. It spoke to exactly, you can explain on this page exactly what her powers are and what she's doing. I think this was this is the issue that Dr. Doom cameoed, which is the title, The Jewels of Doom. But again, just a really good splash, and just tells you everything about the character you need to know.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, I had a soft spot in my heart. Like, again, my favorite year of all time, probably in comics, is my first year. I got so many great memories of that first year.
That's the big one.
Boy, oh boy, and discovering. So Dazzler for me was a 2-year-old back issue at that point, because I came in '82, and I guess her comic was 80 or 80. Was it 80 or 81? I guess
I think it was 80. It was
80. Yeah, that's it, right? So for me to look through the bins at my store, I had that had just opened up, and I started attending or going to, and seeing Dazzler #1 and 2, and I was like, wow, the cover to #1, right? Like,
oh yeah, you can't forget that the
painted. Plus, it had like Nightcrawler and all these famous characters. I was this.
And I think it also is a statement that you don't have to be an all-powerful cosmic being to be a superhero. You could be kind of your neighborhood hero fighting wrongs that don't have galactic or universal impact. So I think that's where you kind of look at Dazzler among some of the other heroes, and it's more kind of domestic battles, and obviously she does hold her own. I do happen to I think I do. No, I do. I have the Dazzler 7 cover with the Hulk.
Oh
And
yes, the Hulk.
she
Actually
fights
bounces
him.
off of him, right?
Yeah, and you can I don't think in real life Hulk and Dazzler would be a fair fight, but in the issue it shows it's very creative in how she can use her powers to stun the Hulk, which is mind-boggling. But yeah, good. That was a great piece. I was really happy to get that one.
Mark says that he was into the British New Romantics when Dazzler came out.
Nice.
So he passed on her for that reason. That's so funny. You need to come by more often, Mark. What's up? I can't believe I've been missing all your witty repartee. Oh, that's funny. And let's see, blaming it on, let's see, Murdoch says that I miss the days when we'd get amazing painted covers that weren't digital pieces. I miss that too, actually.
I miss that too. That too.
Yeah, look at us old guys, reminiscing over the past. We can't get over.
Also, the painted covers, they had the artist needed to put more time into it, right, to get that color and that cover, and you didn't have to pay any extra for the book, so you're actually getting much more art or detail on that cover for the issues that you buy. So it was a bonus for the readers.
Yeah, and it was cool because you didn't see it. It wasn't a regular thing, so that's part of what made it cool. That once in a blue moon you'd get something like that, right? And be like, "Wow, a painted cover! Whoa, look at this!" Yeah. Okay, all right, fellas. Let us move on to the next one. Ooh, oh yeah, wow! I get all excited remembering what I picked.
I do too. Let's go.
But okay. Oh gosh. Okay, let's see. What do you got to say about this one, Dino?
Okay, so again, we talked about collaboration. This is Bill Sienkiewicz and Frank Miller writing. 1986. This is really core for me in terms of the year that this is Watchmen, Dark Knight, and the Elektra Assassin. This was from the 6th issue. This is when Garrett and Elektra come together and they start thinking about how they're going to kind of solve the issue among the kind of come together. What I loved about this is that the heart-shaped bed is an ode to the number 4 cover where there's a heart and cherubs, and all the guns and the sigh. It just has everything that you want to know about Elektra in one page. This is also if you look at the word balloon, which I'm glad you have the real one, it says, "Honey, we never talk." And that's like saying, okay, talk is overrated. Let's actions speak louder than words. And you can see from the incredible munitions and firepower they have that they're ready to do some action.
Absolutely, as she wipes down her sigh, right?
That's right. But the colors, the red and the black. This is one that was very. The whole book, of course, the whole 8 issues were colored, painted. But the dramatic ways that Sienkiewicz did to kind of tell the story was just as innovative. And I was proud that this one won the best of 2020.
Oh, right. This is the one I remember. So yes.
Very, very, very honored to have it voted on for that year.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic piece. Oh God, I was always a Sienkiewicz fan, and so boy, when this came, I was an Elektra fan because of the Miller Daredevil run, and so when this whole miniseries came out, oh God, oh man,
and there was some thought at the time: could Elektra come out and carry a title without Daredevil?
Right.
And there was, I don't know, no one was necessarily convinced, but I think the strength of Sienkiewicz and his art kind of made it a very successful book in terms of its readership. But what people now look back on it's a look inside the mind of Frank Miller. So all the crazy stuff that goes on, we won't spoil it, but like all that stuff comes from Frank's mind, and I think it's a good way to knowing how he developed as an artist and later a writer. You can see him testing out a lot of those things in the Elektra Assassin.
Absolutely. Storyline. Oh yeah, mind-boggling. I loved that series. Oh my God. And Mark says that this is his first visit. Won't be the last. Great show. Thank you so much, Mark. I do hope you do come by whenever you can, man. You're always welcome, and we're all friends here. So, and I was gonna say, you don't even need to be shy to speak in the chat because don't feel intimidated because you may not know people. I don't have to say it though, because you have been you have been speaking a lot, so that's fantastic. So I
Good
thank
for
you so
Mark.
much for
Welcome.
that. Appreciate it. Let's see. Let me catch up here to some of these. Kavi. I had to put a Kavi comment. Electra envy alert level red. Yeah, he's a huge Electra fan. So yeah, there you go. Murdoch says, "Is there such a thing as a bad Bill Sienkiewicz piece? Not for me,
Yeah,
but I
don't
have
think
friends.
so.
I have friends who can't stand them, but
I think the hardest criticism that Bill had was when he was viewed as a Neil Adams clone. And I think the first 8 issues of Moon Knight, he was kind of just creating his own best version of Neil Adams. But I think after 9 and 10, he just started to come into his own. And if you ever want to pick one issue to look at the 22 and 23. I think that was his peak. That set him up to kind of be the artist that he was, and he carried that momentum into the
New Mutants.
and New Mutants.
Yeah, that's it. We're up in Stain. Sean, my lovely fellow Canadian friend.
Hey, Sean.
So he is asking, does Marvel DC have all the colored work in Evolved? I wanted to highlight this simply because, Sean, I don't know why you're asking that question.
No, that's a good question. I think we all know that
you don't see it. You mean because you don't see it often?
Well, yeah,
Sean?
because the vaults are known because they were able to store stacks of black and white art, largely because they didn't want it reproduced in other countries, so they kept it all. In fact, they sometimes gave away the covers and they protected the interior stories. But you can't do that with painted art. There's too much of stuff to kind of get rubbed into. So you can't keep that in stacks, or you risk damage.
Dino, as somebody who also collects 1950s and 60s paperback novel cover painted art, I can tell you, if they want to, they can absolutely stack that stuff up, and it gets destroyed, as you assume, right? So they can. It's just do you care, whatever, but I guess I'm wondering, Sean, are you asking because you feel like you don't see a lot of the painted stuff on the market? Is that why? I'm assuming that's why you're asking.
And there are only a handful of artists that are known for their painted covers, right? With Sienkiewicz and obviously Alex Ross, Mark Teixeira did a lot of good painted stuff. And now you have many more artists in the 90s and 2000s that do painted work. But back then it was just a handful that really made their name in painted pieces.
Okay. Excellent. Let's go on to the next piece, everybody. And thank you, Rick and CJ, for doing the. They're always doing the. They know I'm into the whole music thing. I always put music-related chats like lyrics and stuff to see if anybody catches on, and we always do that with each other. It's fun. Murdoch, before I go to the next piece, says, I expect one of these days for a lot of comic art to show up in a museum because Warner or Disney needs a tax write-off. I don't know about that. I mean, don't forget, Murdoch, that the artists for decades now have been getting the art back, right? So,
well, someone made a comment that the impetus for Marvel or DC giving the art back to the artists because they were going to have to pay tax on it. Did you hear that? It was one of the conversations that we were talking about.
You mean back in the old days before they began to give it
so
back?
I think there was always this realization that if they kept the art, they would have to pay a tax on it. So it made them give them incentive to give it back to the artists or give it away to fans. So I think we could be thankful for that pressure. Otherwise, they would have kept a lot more. Right?
Yes, that was basically it. It was basically they were saying as the laws were clarifying on who owned the art, right? And that the fact that the publishers were actually only paying for the right to reproduce said art, right? That's when the lawyers were started have to tell the publishers, well, listen, now if you can still keep it, but if you have to keep it, you're gonna have to, you pay tax on it, sales tax or whatever, and based on whatever it's supposed to be worth on the market. So they were like, oh, okay, whatever, let's just get rid of this crap.
And thankfully it got out into collector hands, and we enjoy the stuff today.
Yeah, exactly. Derek, what's up, dude? Good to see you, sir.
Yep, Earl Norem, all Savage Sword of Conan covers, all painted.
Oh god, those Savage Sword covers.
Sensational.
Fantastic. And we're up in stain. So Sean follows up with not specifically painted, but not sure what the coloring process was. Are there color originals that exist in some form? Right. So painted stuff, right? It would, like anything else, it would be sent back to the artist. And if they want to sell it and put it out into the secondary market, it's just like black and white art, right? Pencil and ink. Same thing would happen. And that's what's been happening. But most comic books are not painted, right? They're colored. So up into the pre-computer days of the 90s, you have what they are. They're called color guides. So basically, it's what they would do is in the office, they would take the originals, the 11 by 17 originals, right? They would photocopy them at, say, either 7 by 10 or 8.5 by 11, right? It's a reduced size photocopy of the original art. And the colorist would just hand color those photocopies. Right. And sometimes they would write the color codes on them for the printer. Sometimes they wouldn't. But those are color guides. And they are one-of-a-kind originals. But you just have to understand the only thing original is the color. It's the hand.
You're not getting any of the artist or the pencil or inker work.
Right. The drawing is a photocopy, but the color is original. So still one-of-a-kind and a fun, cool part of the collecting universe. Which is starting to sort of take off right now after decades and decades of nobody caring.
Yeah. For a long time, there were collectors that only wanted black and white pieces. I mean, comic book art. There were obviously pulps and Frazetta paintings and stuff that were coveted, but some collectors wouldn't touch colored pieces. So,
yeah. Stanley, I'm going to put this up, but I mean, he's Dino is more of a vintage collector, more than anything. But does Dino try to establish relationships with artists he likes?
I would love to, but I don't have the ability to kind of establish. I don't stand in line for sketches at conventions. I'm more of a kind of a vintage collector, so I go to dealers and try to get art from other collectors. But I would love to do that. I've met a handful of artists and really enjoyed those interactions, but not to the extent that some of the folks in the chat who can really develop deep relationships and over time really get to know these artists as people. I mean, I'd love to do that, but again, the hobby's pretty broad. I can't do everything. So.
Yeah, exactly. Same here. Mind you, I will say, and I don't want to sound like a party pooper, but sorry, I'll put that up in a second, Sean. I when I was in my teens, I would go to my local con and I would get in line and get them to sign my comics or whatever, but pretty much ever since I became an adult, I just sort of lost interest in that. I just don't care. Like, it's not to say anything bad. I go to a show. If I go to a show, I'm looking for art. I don't really have any desire to have to go and talk to the artists anymore like I once did. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but you remember I said I used to collect celebrity autographs. So like, I had an Einstein and a Marilyn Monroe, and those would just be signatures on a piece of paper. So for me, when I see an art page, it's essentially a signature of two artists, the penciler or inker, or one or three if it's painted, or one if it's painted. But it actually is a signature in that they're drawing something in their own hand. So for me, it was so much more fulfilling as a representation from the artist than just the signature. So I view the actual art page as a graphic signature, so to speak, of the artist that participated in that work. And to me, that's special. So I may not know them and have conversations with them, but I feel like I have a touch point with their craft.
Well said. So Sean, we got to kind of keep it moving. I just want to let you know, Sean, that next week's episode, I'm not going to reveal yet what it's all about, but it is an episode of Comic Art 101. So it's learning, it's teaching and learning. So it's they're always entertaining and fun for both newer collectors, but also for more veteran collectors. So I would definitely not miss next week. The topics are not about color guides, but I will just tell you really briefly that, because we can go on forever with this topic, but no, in comics, right, color guides can be one thing, but in another publishing industry, they could be sort of different things.
There's silver plates in something,
right?
So there's
similarities, but differences as well. That's the thing. So the color guides are literally, in comics, the color guides are Photocopies, like I said, photocopies, reduced size photocopies with hand-drawn color, like just colored in the lines. That's how the comic books themselves are in color, because they just copied off of, they published from those color guides. So that's basically it. From in the comic book industry, like I said, they do different things different ways with color and black and white in other printing publishing industries. So.
Now I'll say the only color guide I ever bought was the one for Electra Saga #1.
Okay.
Which is a color guide. Which, if you look on the Overstreet Price Guide, the colorist of record is Frank Miller. So I thought, oh, so maybe he's coloring this, or maybe he's choosing the colors, and maybe he painted it. I ended up selling it, but I sold it to a dealer. Again, it's questionable, but I thought, man, at least it's a color guide. But Frank Miller had some input into that, if not actually painted the thing himself. But who knows? The provenance behind those things are a little bit more sketchy.
Yeah, sketchy, right? I get it, but also it goes back to like the 1960s. Like Neil Adams was this guy who he really wanted. He was like an artist.
Yeah,
he wanted as much control as he could over the final look of the final product, right? So he worked with this guy named Jack Adler. And Jack Adler did a lot of the coloring for Neil Adams covers, particularly in the 60s, early 70s. But there were times when Neil himself just said, you know what, I'm going to color this. And a lot of the color guides are colored by Neil. But the problem is, as you said, Dino, hard to really know. Did Adler color this one or did Neil color this one, Yeah. So that's the difficulty. But it's interesting,
It is interesting.
Cool. Good to see you, Rich Cirillo in the house.
Rich, who specializes in a lot of colored pieces and painted pieces on his wall.
And he says, so when Neil fought for the return of the art, he argued that returning the art to the artist, by doing so, the artist would probably create better work for the publishers, since they could then take that art and sell it, and profit. Yeah, it's a good point. But yeah, he fought hard for other artists. Mark says, I have a John Byrne color guide, but I can't tell whether it was for the original X-Men Dark Phoenix saga, the reprint, or the reprint to Omnis. Okay, does Marvel need color guides for new printings? They often have done newer.
It's called a remaster, right? When they have more colors at their disposal, or they can go direct to digital. But yeah,
exactly. One thing I can tell you for sure, Mark, John Byrne himself did not touch your color guide.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, would have been cooler, but no. And Patrick says that, is there a popular artist that Dino just can't get behind picking up for his personal collection? So basically style, not into the character or whatever, but yeah, a popular artist you just can't get behind. I mean, I think every collector has plenty of artists that they would just not buy from because they don't like them, right? So
yeah, no, I don't have any that I don't like. I do have some that they drew a character that I just have a better connection to a different artist for that character. I'll say that. I mean, I can't. If something comes to mind, I'll mention it. But if I don't remember an artist that I don't collect because I don't like the style.
Right.
It's more the if it's a artist for Iron Man, it may be great, but I kind of have an affinity for one or two other artists. I do try to have for each character. I mean, when I started, I had this grid where I took each title and I ranked my my artist for that I wanted. And again, if I can get the one that I wanted the most for that art, then I felt like I had the best bang for the buck myself. And then that helped me prioritize which ones I was going to go after. So I admire so many artists, but I try to, at least on my want list or my target list, I there's only a handful.
Rich just wants to let us know as well that Neil would sometimes recolor other DC artists' books without them knowing.
Yeah.
Well, he was that kind of a guy, right?
He was the editor, so he could do whatever he wants.
Yeah. Oh, and a little nugget of knowledge from the live chat crew, specifically Michael McIsaac. What's up, Michael? Jack Adler was Howard Stern's cousin. Interesting.
Very cool. Very cool.
That's interesting. Okay. And we're up in Stain, so I'm now interested in how the Marvel Masterworks are made. Oh, it's just because they have had proofs
correct
since the early days right? Because they would already reprint their material back in the 60s.
But if
right?
they didn't have the color guides, they remaster it. So I think when the
Right.
masterworks were made, they actually did a separate color guide. And people, the purists that have read the old Golden Age timelies, for example, when they were reprinted in a different hue or color, a lot of folks got upset because they didn't have the old color guides, so they'd have to reinvent how they color the pages, and it wasn't necessarily true to the original.
Yeah, but Sean is actually, if you notice, he's mentioning how did they make them if they don't have the original art. So he's talking even like the line art, I guess, right?
Yeah, that's a good question. I bet they can, and that's why
They've got copies. They've got copies. They're
well,
not
the
great.
masterworks are smaller because they can't get the high definition of the original art. I bet they can scan the actual books and then take out the color to make the original art. So when you see them, they're not in the same detail as you could when you publish
no.
it. Yeah.
No, and that whole dropping out the color, that's way too time consuming.
It's awful.
Yeah, what they do is typically they still work off of old proofs. They still have old proofs,
silver proofs. Yeah,
and then they clean them up if they can or whatever. A little bit is, if they're not the nicest looking or whatever. But that's pretty much it, Sean. It's just reprinting from reprints going back to the 60s or whatever. So that's all they can do, right? Okay, so guys, let's look at the other next piece of art here. And that will be, let me see what we got. Oh, yes. So a very rare panel page I'm going to show tonight, everyone. Oh, God, I love this. Here we go. Dino, what do you got to tell us about this?
Okay, well, again, I like the collaboration. This was the only issue in the Green Lantern run where Adams and Bernie Wrightson inks him, and it's a coveted issue. And this is a really nice sequence. I think the money shot is that last panel. It shows him using his powers.
Yeah.
That last panel is very, it's great Neil Adams, great Bernie Wrightson, really shows off their talents as artists. A number of these pages, I think 6 or 7 of them have gone to auction. I know Scott Williams has one. Some of the very prominent collectors really covet the ones that from this issue. I'm lucky to have one, and this is again a good full figure. It's a little Falcon of Green Lantern in his panel, but I do like the collaboration. I think very rarely do you see Neil Adams and Bernie Wrightson outside of the horror DC work to collaborate together, and I thought it was a good representation of that issue.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic, fantastic. I mean, I look, honestly, I always loved this whole run, even regardless of whether it was the Wrightson issue or if it was just Giordano or what have you. It's just beautiful.
So memorable, the stories, right? I mean, from 76 to 90, 89. Drug issues in 85 and 86, civil rights.
Yeah, exactly. Because exactly. It was sort of one of those early Marvel attempts at picking up on social issues of the time, which I mean, I was too young, but I can imagine how mind blowing it must have been to sort of pick up a comic like that, right? And remember when the old black man is like, yeah, you're helping these people, but who's helping us, right? And it's like, wow.
I'd like to say that the hobby has progressed since over the last 10 years. Now the inkers have much more prominence and get more recognition for how and you look at how different inkers can change the appearance of a specific artist. I think it's much knowledgeable now. But I remember just 10 years ago, when things came to auction, they almost never even said who the inker was. It was like, okay, this is Penciler. That was the one that sold the page. So that was a rare instance where the inker itself actually would be a headliner as well. And I mean, I should have paid more attention and gone after more of that stuff. But I just remember back then it was just the Neil Adams page, and the collectors would have to know, oh, that's the 84 is the Wrightson issue.
GL and GA were the first attempt by DC to study the man behind the mask. It was woke before it became a badge. So
I also think it was an experiment of relevance, right? I mean, you had these superheroes, Superman from Krypton, and you had a lot of these superheroes battling villains, and you can always say, well, it looks like real life because they call it New York or they call it Metropolis. But I think Green Lantern, Green Arrow, that series that Neil Adams put together, and the writers that Dennis, and well, it was an attempt to make it as relevant as possible. So that's why you brought the civil rights issues, the drug issues, and I think that made it very unique at the time. Presidents appeared in the pages. Martin Luther King. So a lot of really, I think that's another hallmark of that run.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's why it's constantly in print, right? As well, all these decades later. So, yeah, fantastic. That's if you're gonna get one Green Arrow, Green Lantern piece, Dino, why not get one from the only issue that writes in ink as well, right? It's pretty fabulous. So. Okay.
And it's a rare panel because I don't think I can afford a splash or cover from that.
Right.
So I kind of stopped there.
Right.
Yeah.
Got you. Yeah. Look, everybody's got their limits, right? So I hear you on that for sure. All right. With that, let us move. We'll stay with DC, everyone. To one of my all-time favorite loves at DC, and show you this piece here.
Wow. Okay. So again, new Teen Titans, Perez and Kessel. This came out of the history of the DC universe. It's actually not part of a story. It was really just a pinup. But if you know Perez and when he creates his magic, it's the picture perfect images of many characters in a collage, really, of sorts. And I just love this. This is twice up. It's on Baxter paper. It has the whole team. It's got some interesting symmetry on it, which is really great. It kind of has some really nice images of each of the main characters. And while it's not part of a story, I think it really resonates with me on what Perez brought to the series. I did get this from a friend and fellow collector that knew I liked stuff like this, and I've just loved it since. That T in the background is the tower. It's also the shape of their kind of table, the Teen Titans table. Yeah. But what makes it very appeal to me is, again, the symmetry of it. If you can imagine this is a poster, it does have very good wall presence, and the way he balanced the characters to create those. You can see Raven. I mean, you can see Raven and Starfire both with their arms up. You have the wings in the center, kind of balancing the picture. You have Changeling hovering over, the three biggies from the team, Cyborg and Nightwing and Donna Troy. It's got some great balance, and it's oversized, so it has good wall presence as well.
Yeah, I just want to come back and mention that what you keep calling symmetry. Yeah, listen, it's what I always refer to as all those classic George Perez covers where the group is either standing there or coming at you,
right?
But always in a perfectly balanced composition. That's what I always refer to. It's one of those classic Perez cover compositions, right? Where it's all balanced. If there's one character here, there's going to be one to balance on the other side, right? Like you said, if the character is kind of doing this, and on the other side, it's kind of happening as well. And he did so many.
Exactly what you said, Ruben. When you look at some artists who may not think of the composition, they're just trying to, they look at the script and they need to get this action sequence and these characters in there. I think what makes George very special is his vision. He's able to see the page, visualize it, and then begin to kind of incorporate the elements. And I think that's where you get those really impressive compositions where you have 20 characters on a page, and you're like, how could he do that? I mean, he's not just winging it. He's figuring out the right size and tone for the page, and he puts them in positions where you can still see them in good form. They're not hiding behind each other.
Like that. Like that's check out what Brian says. What you're saying right now is what he's saying, right? Giving each character their own place to shine within the full piece, even though there's so many of them there, because of the careful balance in the composition. That's how you do it, right? Yeah.
Amen.
So yeah, that's fantastic. Rich says the history of the DC universe had beautiful pinups of each of their characters by Perez. Yeah, this came out right after that. That's right. Crisis on Infinite Earths.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly. Hey, Caesar, what's up, dude?
Hey, Caesar.
Great image. Is the stat original to the piece? I don't think
No,
so.
well, the stat is actually it was actually a paragraph in there. I just put the new Teen Titans logo just for appearance. But you're right. I didn't want to put the text in there.
No, no, that's right. That's because exactly. That's
Yeah.
Caesar. That's because there was a bunch of text right at the bottom where he
Right.
has his
The
logo.
history of the DC universe was kind of their version of the Marvel universe, where they would describe teams or characters and then give a paragraph of text to describe what them. And it was just, it's, for me, it was more important to get the logo in there for
Yeah.
presentation purposes.
Also, Marcus, you mentioned why is Tara there? Well, I don't know why you're what. I mean, she's there because this is the history of the DC universe. So this is just a history of the Titans. I guess you're probably forgetting that maybe, and you're thinking, oh, because she was already dead by this point.
It was an extended. What you see is about 13 characters here. So they did the big six, and then they added kind of some of the key supporting characters. I think that's what he's saying. She wasn't. It was trying to get as many characters in there as possible, really, and showing the evolution of the team in one picture.
Yeah. No, and as I say, I mean, it's the history of the DC universe, right? So it's part of the history. So it doesn't matter.
Now, I will say that by having this piece, I've been kind of reluctant to go after a cover because it kind of fits the. But now I look back and I say, well, I've never owned a Perez New Teen Titans cover, even though I would love to have had one. But having this piece kind of meant I could focus elsewhere. So that's a downside of getting pieces that like this, because it takes your eye off the ball for things that could be a good addition. But I just never had a chance to go after one.
Gotcha. Yeah, Rich, thank you for answering the question. I did see it, but I appreciate you guys chiming in. It's especially when the chat's busy. It's good that you guys help each other as well. Yeah, so she's the one below Robin. Thank you so much, sir. And let me come back real quick and go back to the comments because I just saw something I wanted to put up. Comics by the Bay. What's up, everybody? New to the channel. Good to see you, sir. Welcome, and thank you so much for dropping in tonight. And I hope you are enjoying what you're seeing, and hopefully you'll come by and check out future shows on Sunday nights, always at 8 o'clock. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. And let me know in the chat, by the way, who told you to come here. I see you're saying hello to Jason Ladwig, so maybe he's the one who told you to come check it out. But yeah, let me know. Just curious. So let's see what we got here. Also, this is at least as yes, exactly. Comic Gar Boston. This is at least as good as a cover. Exactly. As far as content goes, right? You don't get to say, oh, it's a cover, but who cares really? If you're in it for the art, all that matters is the art, right? It's like we say often, right? There's those issues where the cover isn't that great, but the splash inside
or even inside, right?
Right. And I've always said the day will come when that splash somebody will pay more for that splash than for that not so great cover. Yet I don't know about you, but I still have not seen that happen. People are so obsessed with cover.
I can give you the example. Hulk 180. Which page you get the splash, you get the cover, or you want the end panel page that introduces Wolverine, right?
Yeah.
Venom 3, Spider-Man 300. Do you want the end page with Venom appearing or anything else? So those are examples of when an interior page or something not the cover of the splash is the pick of the litter.
Okay, perfect. Comics, by the way, has responded. I was actually just searching out new channels in the search, random luck, I guess, just putting off going to bed, and what better way than comic talk? That's awesome, man. Thank you. Are you into original artwork like all of us are, or are you just a comic book reader guy? Let me know. I'm curious. No UPC box to distract. Exactly. That's true too. Although they don't all have it on the original anyways, right? Image is everything at some point. I mean, I believe so. But this is what I'm saying, Marcus, is that I have always, even since my early days in the hobby, believed that more emphasis should be put on the aesthetic. And so as rare as a cover is compared to, let's say, a splash, right? It's not that much more rare than a splash. And yes, I get that the cover image is the first thing you see. So in most cases, yes, the cover should be worth more. I get it. I'm just saying, I've been waiting for 20 whatever years for the exceptions to the rule to start taking hold, where people say, you know what? If there's some killer splash in, let's say, Alpha Flight number 6, right, where that's, I believe that's the Snowbird cover where it's all white and just a tiny little Snowbird image or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. If there's a killer splash in that issue, which I don't remember, right? But if there was, I would say that for years now, that splash needs to sell for way more money than the cover, just because it's superior. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah, no, and there's always this debate about aesthetics versus nostalgia. If you separate the nostalgia and think about nostalgia is very subjective. Ruben's nostalgia is different than my nostalgia, and it's different than CJ's design nostalgia. The aesthetics, though, may be more complex. So a killer image that 90% of the people will raise their hand and say, that's killer. I think that does resonate with some collectors, and I certainly value that. It doesn't matter whether that's the first comic I ever wear off the spinner rack. If it's on a standalone aesthetic, is a cool piece, I'm happy with that as well.
No, that's awesome. Good.
In fact, I was telling Ruben before the show, I've got stuff that is just only meaningful maybe to me. Like when I was growing up, I remember I was telling Ruben, I love the Terror Man in Action Comics, and
that's the cowboy guy.
Weird cowboy guy wearing riding a flying horse, and I have a page that that shows him doing that, and I've never posted it because I don't think anyone really would care as much as I do for that. But that's cool to me. But that's where aesthetics are more objective, right? It's something that while it does have subjectivity to it, at least there's some killer images or images that everyone would stand up and say, yeah, that's a great representation of the character or the artist.
Well, I hope what I've been hoping for over 20 years plus, one day I'm still hoping it comes true, and people more regularly, when they see that the interior splash is way better than the cover, go hard on it and pay whatever just pay to get it because it's better than the damn cover. Don't satisfy yourself with a cover just because you can say it's a cover. Who cares if there's really nothing great about it, right?
Many of you know that when I first started collecting, the first thing I bought were splashes because I felt like you get more art than the cover.
Yeah,
and it was a single large image. And I think I had 40 or 45 splashes that I end up upgrading or selling or converting into other stuff. But when I see those again, and there's a couple that I'd really love to reacquire, but I do remember picking those, saying, you know what, I actually that does it for me, and I don't. For me, it was almost better than getting a cover because you don't have to pay cover price for it or
well said.
Value.
Well said. Comics, by the way, thank you for answering. Just mainly a reading and collecting comics guy. But always interested in different aspects of the hobby. Fantastic, man. I appreciate it.
We'll get you over to the dark side soon.
Well, that's it. You never know. If you keep watching long enough, you may get sucked in. So that's it. And so look what he says. He watched the guy do lettering the other day and got sucked in for 2 hours.
Nice.
So there you go. Rich, I wanted to address this as well. It's interesting how covers used to tell a story, or at least part of what was happening inside the book, right? Nowadays, well, I would say not nowadays, but for the last 20 years plus, most covers seem to be basically pinups. That's right. It's movie poster style. Oh, give me a movie poster style thing. I know. I'm so sick of it, honestly. Like, I'll like anybody else. Sure, I love a cool new Teen Titans coming at you. The whole team's coming at you. Yeah, whatever. But like, God, everything has to be a pinup now. Like, there's nothing with word balloons. You don't see the characters talking to each other on the cover, like they used to. And it's a scene right out of a key scene in the issue. Oh man, I miss those days too, Rich. So that's all. I'm with you right there, man. And Mark says, I'm waiting for the day fans are collecting the letters page. Ha ha. Guess what? The joke's on you, Mark, because people have purchased the letters page.
There's art around the borders of the letters page that's pretty coveted, right?
Yeah, and even not even if they have art. There have been, I mean, you don't see them often, but there have been all stats. It's all complete photo stats, but letters pages. And, they've hit websites and auction houses. People will still bid on them and buy them for, decent, affordable amounts, but it's a piece of the comic. So it's still kind of cool, It's like the restaurant biz. A beautiful hostess is the first impression. That's the cover. but a great server makes the meal memorable. There you go, CJ.
There's actually a small faction of collectors
awesome.
with their fingers crossed, because as you look at, they all go digital or they go to trade paperbacks. The covers actually get buried in the back, and it's the splashes that have more prominence, right? Because they show all 6 stories together. You only see the splashes and interiors. You don't really see the covers. So there's some folks that are rooting for the return or the resurgence of splash values.
Yes. And Brian, good point, because fantastic, right? The only problem is that that's still not quite a great example for what I'm saying, only because in this case, I know that, and you know that people will always still pay up more for the cover on this one, simply because it's a key issue. It's a key issue. But so if I'm talking about, if you have to find, like, again, the Alpha Flight 6, not that I know that there's a great splash inside, right? But a weak cover with a great splash inside. So, I mean, I've made my point. You know what I'm talking about, you know?
Good discussion.
Yeah, but without it being a key issue, you know? Let's see what we've got here. Okay, so Rich says, hear you, Dino. I love my obscure Tiger Man art. There you go. That's your Terra Man is his
that's right.
Tiger Man, you know. I love my Western and war art as much as my superhero art, but even the former is getting expensive now. It's all getting expensive.
It's all getting expensive, right? But that's why it's important to prioritize. I mean, we all have, you know, a lot of wants, but limited resources, and you kind of want to make things that, you know, go after things that you'll appreciate more than others.
Yeah, exactly. Jason, I got to jump to the art again. So I don't know that I really want him to answer this question, but I put it up there anyways. Dino, 5 pieces that you didn't get for whatever reason that you wish you had today. In other words, non-buyers regret.
Yeah, no, it's too much, but I should have gone for the Tim Sale Long Halloween trade paperback cover that Sideshow Bob has. That came to auction. I kind of missed out on that. I finally got a Cockrum X-Men page. I passed on so many great ones because I thought everyone was focused on Byrne, and by the time I focused on Cockrum, his prices had gone to the roof. So I think the great thing about this hobby is you can always make up for past mistakes. It'll cost you more, but you can always make it up later in your collecting journey. So if I do have 5 mistakes, I'm working hard as hell to make up for them today. So
yeah. Okay. I'm so sorry. Mike says, and may contain a letter from. Oh yeah, they're talking about those letters pages.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they can be fun if it has like a famous name or in it, somebody wrote a letter, or especially if you wrote a letter and you can get the letters page, that would be fun too, you know. The vintage covers with perilous scenes and dialogue would make you want to buy the book. Yeah, exactly. So he's just dropping some knowledge that it was Superman 249.
249. I think that was a Neil Adams issue as well.
Yeah, but he
did appear back. Yeah, he appeared on a couple of others, and I actually lost out on. There's one famous scene where he has Superman hung upside down and he shoots him with his gun, and Superman catches the bullet in his mouth. I mean, I went for that one. I thought I put twice what I thought market value was and got outbid. So somebody else likes Terra Man too. So
yeah. Yes, Mark, Asian Fun Comics. The next best thing that we get in modern comics are when they use an interior page as a variant cover. Yeah, but that's
the lottery when you find out your interior page gets used as a cover.
Like for the second,
or your commission gets used for a cover. That's almost like winning the lottery.
TJ is asking that leads to a question: is the old Daily Planet DC House ad ever offered, or were they just tossed? I mean, you don't really see that stuff, if ever, much, but who knows?
If you look at my gallery, I do have a lot of house ad stuff because I love the merchandising feel, mostly on the Marvel side. I'm also a very big fan of Slurpee cups. So when I was growing up, they had the 1970 7-Eleven Slurpee cups, and those usually had a very Falcon or famous image of the characters. I think I have 4 of them represented in art, and I'm always trying to find more. And lastly, I've always been a fan of those big Treasury editions. So I've got about 6 pieces of art that are tied to Marvel Treasury or DC Treasuries. Those made a big impression to me as a kid. But the house ads as well. I saw the T-shirts and
All right, you ready for another one, Dino?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Oh God, I love this one. Well, I love them all, but I just because I love my favorite member of the Fantastic Four, like he is for everybody, for most people. Um, oh God, I love this piece.
Yeah, so this is actually, if you look at the most commented this week, actually, someone has posted the production page for this.
Oh, really?
Yeah, look at it. It was actually
Wow.
reprinted in Marvel Treasury #5. They reprinted the
Oh,
story. So this was an interesting one. This is a collaboration of Starlin and Sinnott, who both really draw the thing really well. Cry Monster is an ode to the famous Fantastic 451, which is
yeah.
the monster story of the thing. This image is just, it's got the full team. The joke is the Invisible Girl isn't here because she's invisible, but truthfully, there was a 2-year period where Reed and Sue actually separated, and so she wasn't part of the
Ah,
Fantastic Four. But this was a really, really important story. It was very nostalgic for me, and to get an image of Starlin and Sinnott doing the thing like this was just, it's golden. It's right in the prime 1973 period, and it was reprinted 11 times just in the U.S. Number of issues, Thing versus Hulk, and it was in the Marvel 2-in-1 thrillers and
Dino,
Marvel
Dino,
Treasury.
Dino, Dino. Did you did you once you knew you were acquiring this, did you actually go out and start researching and counting the amount of times it was reprinted? Is that why
No, no,
you
no.
know?
You do
No?
that. I do that after, but I think I just love the image itself. I will tell you
Yeah.
that I had to trade. I traded a Sam Keith Marvel Presents splash for this. I later reacquired that
Okay.
splash, but
Oh
this
wow.
was one that was that I had to give up a lot to get it. But it
Okay.
was very meaningful for me. I just love the image, and it's a story that I just remember fondly.
Oh man. Yeah. It's funny because like everybody's saying they're loving the Synod inks, right? And I agree. The thing is I like so I remember back in the day, certain inking styles fit certain styles of penciler, and some inking styles don't quite fit, right?
Yeah.
And a guy like Starlin, sorry, I just missed it. Was that a Starlin piece?
Yeah, Starlin and Sinnott.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And a guy like Starlin, typically, he was a guy who I did not want to see Sinnott inking.
You wanted
Uh,
him to ink himself or
yeah, right,
Rubenstein.
right,
Yeah.
right, exactly, right. It looks way better like that. However, there's just something so classic about Sinnott's brush line. I just, oh God, I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
especially on the thing. I think
Yeah,
there's a
right,
lot of
on the thing.
when he
Yeah,
does Fantastic Four, there's others that compete
yeah,
with him and other characters. But when Sinnott does the thing, he nails it, and that's what
yeah.
makes the Kirby Sinnott run so special, is the way he handled the thing.
Man,
But good pick,
yeah,
good pick.
exactly. Tariq says Sinnott on Starlin thing is one of the best. There you go. It really is beautiful. Yeah, like I said, yeah, Starlin on Starlin, even back in the 70s,
Milgram,
Milgram on
Starlin,
Starlin,
Milgram. Yeah.
you know.
I like many of you. If you're collecting in the '70s, the comics, you'd get the Overstreet price guide, and then they would break out key artists. So it was, for me, it was Neil Adams, it was Jim Starlin, John Byrne, and a few others. But those are the
Yeah.
ones that were broken out at the and I sought them out when I was quarter bin diving for comics. I'd try to find and memorize all the Starlin issues and Neil Adams issues and Byrne issues, and
Yeah.
those are the one I went for.
Excellent. All right, everybody, let's move on to the next one. And the next one is, oh boy, again, one of my sort of, I don't even know how to say it, sort of these guys that I back when I was a kid, I would put up on a
Mm-hmm.
pedestal as one of the greatest, even though he didn't really do all that much art in his career. Here, let's take a look at it. Frank Bruner.
Frank Bruner. Big fan of Bruner on Doctor Strange. This is,
Oh God.
well, look, this is him against Baron Mordo, and then Syssinig, which is Genesis spelled backwards.
Yeah.
When you look at his work, I think what distinguishes him is the amount of detail he does on his line work, his cross hatching, his depth, his shadowing, And I think this was a good example of not only Strange using his powers, Central, Falcon, whatever, but he's
Yeah.
also the detail behind the brushwork and the lines and the shadows is just phenomenal for me. I only wish I bought others. I mean, I only have this one. I don't have any from the Doctor Strange run, but
Right.
he was special. He was special.
Oh, fantastic. I mean, not only was, I mean, this is like peak Bruner as well. Also, like yourself, for me, yeah, you know, Doctor Strange is it. And he had that illustrative quality that a Neil Adams did back in the day. You know, I kind of put him up in there, you know, in that similar category. But like I said, the only problem for me was it was frustrating that wow, he doesn't really do a lot of work, you know, and so
Yeah.
yeah,
I'll tell you something interesting. So Brunner, you know, I always say that the artist will gravitate the characters that best emphasize his work, and I think having Doctor Strange and his cloak and his cape and all of his gowns and his paraphernalia and his uniforms, it allowed Frank to really go into the incredible detail. He actually has a number of kind of fantasy artwork where he shows, you know, folks like a Conan or something where he can't really put in the detail like he can with a costume of this nature. And I think that's why when you look at his signature work, it's strange because it allows him to really go into that detail of the
yeah.
inks. And this is also an artist that you love when he pencils and inks himself.
Oh
That
yeah,
he
yeah,
can have his entire. He knows exactly how he wants to present it,
yes,
and he won't trust it to anyone else if he can.
no, yeah. Well, you know, sometimes it
He
wasn't his
has
choice,
to because right. But
right?
if he
Remember some of those issues because I used to have a bunch of pages. The only Bruner Doctor Strange that I had, unfortunately, was inked by Ernie Chan.
Abel of Chan. Yeah, that's
Ernie
good.
Chan.
That's a great one to have ink in because he does. But
It's not great. Like they still looked pretty good. I'll say it's pretty good. They were still nice, but nowhere near as like Bruner on himself. Like it was like yeah. There's a drop off there. You know, again, given that it was Chan, I just felt like why get the noodly guy, right?
right.
Because I love don't get me wrong, I love the Filipino noodly inking style. Always have. It's just why get a noodly guy on a guy that's more Adams-ishy, straighter sort of lines, thin pen lines mixing in with some brush. It just didn't kind of. It's just not, you know. But again, I know in comic publishing, oftentimes the decision is simply made. Well, this guy penciling makes this much per page. Our budget for the book is this much. We need a cheaper inker, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and even to this day, that's how most of the decisions are made on who's going to ink the penciler, you know?
And he went to, after, this is 72, 73, when he got to 74, 75, he started doing Howard the Duck. He started doing some other titles. I think he even did some horror. So he started getting stretched thin, and you kind of needed some inkers to carry the load.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and I will give credit to Frank's work on the whole, you know, the beginning of the Howard the Duck thing. It's just that for me, I'm not going to, you know, I never bullshit. You know that. Well, even as a 12-year-old, I don't give a crap about some duck. Who cares about a duck, right? Like, I was just like, what is this crap? Why would you waste your time with this? But of course, at the time as a 12-year-old, I didn't realize that the story-wise, it had to do with some other kind of, I still haven't read it to this day, some other kind of socially satire.
Yeah, it was the first satire storyline. Yeah. He's the only character of the Marvel Universe that ran for president in 76.
Right.
And he made the cover of Time magazine, which Thor hasn't done that, and I mean, Doctor Strange hasn't done that. So
yes, exactly. But yeah, it's a shame that he didn't. I think Frank, if I'm not mistaken, if I recall correctly, I think he was one of those guys similar to Buscema, John, who never really cared for the superhero. You know, I believe he's one of those guys.
Yeah,
and so that may
from
have
what I understand, he loved the kind of sci-fi and
more
fantasy elements of the work, and so it fit him, these characters, right?
Yeah, exactly. Mark, the covers of this era were always 1/3 masthead and 2/3 art. So
These are called the letterbox covers, or they went through a number of.
Maybe you got less art, but boy, they were attractive. I mean, they're I thought they looked nice. So it made a whole. It's sort of like the mast and the design of the frame. It all came together to work in conjunction with the artwork and make it look nice. So. Yeah, that's my
a good choice. I was really happy to get that.
Yeah, no, my pleasure, believe me. Okay, so let us take a look at the next one. But first, Rick says Channing's on Bruner's like turning spaghetti into macaroni with a little wink. Holy, Frank Bruner's commissions page is still up on GeoCities. Holy crap, wow. Really? Oh boy. That was going back to the 90s, I think. Same with Colin. Did not like superheroes that much either. Oh yeah, but no, he still liked them. Like he didn't hate them, like Buscema or like Jeffrey Catherine Jones. I mean, Jeffrey Catherine Jones she was a fine artist, right? Who just kind of had a little bit of a childhood comic book love.
It's more fine art and
right, but that was a fine artist, and it was just like I remember back in the not the 90s, the 2000s, when she was in need of some money and she was willing to do some commissions, and all these guys would commission her to do superheroes. Like I remember seeing Elektra, Batman, this and that and the other, and I was like, honestly, it looked like crap, like most of them, because it was so clear. She did not like the subject matter she was being forced to paint, right? And I'm just like, wow, it's just, I don't know. I just thought it was a shame to see. She needed to do it, right? She did it because she needed to do it, right? And, I mean, nothing personal to you guys who own some of those pieces. It just, when the artist is not into it, you're not going to get the best work, And that's kind of like, I just felt it was sad to see her having to do that because she needed to do it, Some of them were okay.
Broadly saying, you can see artists, which characters or which titles or what period they really put their work on the page. They're really trying to do their best work, and that's what we appreciate, I think, as fans to this day.
Yeah, exactly. I would have asked for trees from Jeffrey Catherine Jones. There, it would have been. I think it would have been looked better. Yeah, like I said, she was a fine artist. So there you go. Colin DD superb, especially boy if you get certain inkers like Palmer or I'm blanking from the late 60s.
Well, Colin Chan was a great combination.
Sid Shores
on Iron. Yeah.
Did you like Sid Shores on the Daredevil stuff?
On the old Daredevil. Try to find a great 4-panel large art page of Daredevil with Colin pencils. It's gold.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, everybody, let us get to the next piece here. And for that, we go from Bruner to Herb Trimpe and Ghost Rider.
Yeah, so this is Herb Trimpe is not necessarily known for Ghost Rider, but I think with this cover, this was very early. I think obviously Ghost Rider first appeared in Marvel Spotlight 5. This is one that when I picked this up, this was 2008 or 2007, very early in my collecting career. Yeah, no, and I thought to myself, I said, this is what, when you think about Ghost Rider, you see him on his bike, front and center. This spoke to me. And many others would say, well, it's not Plug or it's not his most famous artist. But to me, it was a perfect representation of the character. And I loved it. I love the fact that he's carrying a girl, Jaws of Death, great character, great title. And no, so I do like I admire Trimpe for his breadth. I mean, he's done so many. He's done so many titles from Iron Man to Hulk to now Ghost Rider, and he did he was a very talented. He could go across a lot of genres, and I think for Ghost Rider on his motorcycle, it's kind of checked the boxes for me. Again, 1973, a lot of stuff from that era, because that was when I really started collecting.
Yeah, for sure. I wanted to tell you that. Well, obviously, aside from the fact that it's got prototypical riding the chopper right sort of, not quite towards you, but to your left or whatever. Aside from that, I was really impressed with how he drew the female. I thought, wow, that's a really pretty. He wasn't known for drawing pretty
No, yeah.
ladies, and I looked at that and I was like, wow, it's almost like the lady came from a Ramita cover, and it was like, yeah, just
Absolutely.
very pretty, very, very pretty. Yeah, I love that, and love the I love those late '60s, early '70s fashions for women. So when I see that, I'm like, oh yeah,
You
man,
got
right?
it.
Yeah, love that stuff. Jordan's back, and the Jordan says
Hey,
the art of
Jordan.
this cover seems like it is in motion. Well, it's a very
Good speed lines there.
exactly the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of movement in it. Absolutely,
And this was again the period where Marvel was starting to experiment with the supernaturals, right? The
all the
Werewolf by
monsters.
Night,
Yeah,
the Ghost Rider. Those were they weren't really sure about the long term popularity, so they had to create stories that would be compelling. Murder mystery. It was the occult. It was the kind of fear of the unknown that really permeated a lot of those stories.
yep, absolutely. And Ramita corrections and Marcus, I would say no because it looks pretty clean. Like I don't see any white out on the girl at all. So it looks like
I don't think so. I looked at the provenance, but he would have the authority to do corrections on faces. But
right.
I think Trimpy knew how to do Ghost Rider, so that was easier.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. All right, let us go to so now we're going to jump from the early '70s into more of the modern era.
Oh, I see. I wanted to be able to show some modern selections, which I don't have many, but I do.
Let's take a look at this. Tell us about this one, Dino.
Okay, well, this is Miracle Man cover. This is a painted piece, as we were saying, Dave McKean, oversized board. This thing is about 20, this is 18 by 26 or 18 by 28, just huge. And that below is Winter, who's the Miracle Man and Miracle Woman's daughter, who actually has a lot of super ability herself. When you buy a McKean cover, it's really not so much the action that's on it, but it's the atmosphere. And so I think the winter, and you see the winter landscape above. The way he did that interior thing is actually a cutout from is a collage. It was a cutout from a master painting, 17th century painting, and then he used gold thread to kind of interlace it literally between the two painted images. So you get the painted image, but you have a collage of materials and mixed media that all together come to a pretty outstanding image. And that's what McKean's known for. I got this off the Comic Connect, I think auctioned it off a while back. You rarely see the painted covers. I was really surprised to see one coming to market. These usually just sit on collectors' walls forever, but it did come up, and it was from a time where I remember the stories were very, very. The golden age was the arc that was going through this at the time. It was very memorable.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And thank you so much for sticking around as much as you did, Comic Art Boston. Really, really appreciate it.
Thanks, Comic Art Boston. Good collector. What a great. Have a good night.
A wonderful collector and an even better man.
Well, he's also up later than he needs to because he's
there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's see. Let me get that off here.
But that counts as a modern. I've got some more modern. 1991.
I see. See, well, okay. Well, listen. For me, it's just the way I've always felt. For me, anything from 90, like I don't know. I feel like even 80s and onward to me still always feels modern. Even though I was a kid when I started in the early 80s, I don't know. It just still has a mod. I guess you know why? I guess it has something to do with I was there buying it. I bought it.
Right.
It doesn't feel old, right? So I think psychologically, it only feels old to me if it was already old.
Correct.
When I first started buying it, like when I got into comics. So it was a back issue. Oh, that's old. Even it might only have been 2 or 3 years old, but it felt old because it was in the bin. You know what I mean?
But I do feel like 91 could still be considered modern to me. I mean, anything within the last. There was a demarcation. But I would really put like right after the whole Image round, so 96 and on. That would be what I would consider modern. technically, and nowadays I think people say the last 10, 15 years is
Right.
2006.
I mean, ultimately, it's all perception. It's whatever you
Yeah.
feel. If if it feels that way to you, if it's modern, if it feels like it's still not quite, it doesn't have to be. See, it doesn't have to be like those comic book guys.
No.
You comic book guys always having to this obsession with having to give a stupid metallic name to every 10 years that goes by or 15 years that goes by. That makes no sense. I don't want to get into that now.
But this is an example of, I got this cover, and I've always wanted a Toddleben interior page from Miracle Man. But again, when you have this cover, it kind of said, well, maybe I should go look something else, because I don't want to be too big on Miracle Man.
Well, tell me though, Dino, did you make a play for the 15 cover by Toddleben when that was available?
I remember when that came back. It was definitely well above my appetite.
Your purview.
Yeah, but that that was the issue. The big. I remember when they auctioned off the number 15, the DPS at the end that showed kind of the aftermath of the war, right?
Oh yeah,
everyone with bodies hanging around, everything. I thought that was one of the most beautiful pieces of art I've ever seen. I should have gone for it harder, but no, that issue is pretty well known and always comes at a premium.
Absolutely. Stanley, I don't know if you're asking about us, but for me, it's just the Action Comics #1 cover.
Yeah, I just got my Wolverine T-shirt, right? Of course, Ruben's wearing the DC. I'm wearing the Marvel.
And you know what's funny though, Dino, about that you said that? You said, of course, Ruben's wearing the DC. I've always been a Marvel guy.
But a lot of your grommet and DC, which I know you for.
Yeah.
So when I talked about reaching out to natural collectors, if I see a Superboy cover, great, with Tom Grummett, I'm like, okay, better check in with Ruben.
Yeah. Right. That's exactly
that's a natural buyer.
Yeah, but I will say I have always on these shows I purposely, because I know that Marvel has always been above DC for most people.
Why not talk about DC?
I've always just wanted to give DC more shine, so I make it look I just try to boost them up more. So there you go. But thanks for the question, Stanley. You fashion monger, you.
That's right.
All right, so let us see really quickly if there's any interesting comment or question I got to put up. Marcus is asking, but is CGC era? Oh, the plastic age. That's great, though. Actually, that's awesome.
That's exactly right. It changed the hobby forever.
Rich knows what I'm talking about. I'm actively seeking aluminum age art. I'm telling you, Rich.
After copper.
Yeah, these comic guys, I'm telling you, they will do it. They will do it sooner or later. It's gonna happen. You're gonna see. Let me see. Okay, Toddleben, true. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I had to put that up there, Rickster. Toddleben's a true master. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, love Toddleben ever since Saga of the Swamp Thing. Oh my God. One of my favorites all time. Absolutely. West, what are you talking about? Marvel zombies. What about them? Must have been in reference to something one of us said. Sorry, man.
While we're musing on that, I will say that I've been able to pick up or at least go after a lot of modern art lately. I mean, I've got maybe I don't post them all, but I tend to like the artists that friends or folks in the chats suggest that they love, and I get to see their collections, and I'm like, wow, that's really, really cool. So that's how I get to be excited about modern artists. I may not be reading them off the stands like I used to from back in the day, but I see the art up close from all of you guys, and I think to myself, wow, that's a hell of a page, or what a outstanding artist, and try to get a piece that fits my collection. So I do have this theme. A lot of my early modern art really were homage covers. So I have a couple of folks with a number of pieces where modern art is doing a homage cover or homage piece that has some connection to the 70s and 80s or 90s. And so I get to play both worlds, right? So it's a modern artist, modern piece. But like I think I posted the Infinity Gauntlet homage. The Guardians of the Galaxy.
The Guardians,
Again, I'm getting modern and old time at the same time.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, it's nice to sort of broaden the horizons,
Yeah.
All right, everybody, let us take a look at our next ones. And for this, we are going backwards a bit, back into the 70s from the 90s.
Okay.
And we will be looking at one of my favorite cover art design tropes, the villain looming overhead over the action with this one.
Oh my. Okay. So Ernie Chan, you mentioned, I have great
Yes.
respect for, love him as an artist. This has a lot of things going for it. This is Master Kung Fu 75. This has a lot of things. A lot of tropes is the whole checkerboard floor, which was famous in a lot of covers. It's the looming villain, which Dr. Doom did a lot of Fantastic Four covers and a lot of super villain covers where he's bigger than life. And it sets the backdrop of the scene. And this is also Master of Kung Fu facing his arch rival, which is Razor Fist. So a lot of things just checking the box, going, this is a cover that fits the bill. And again, a great image of my Master of Kung Fu as well. What I did like also is it's such a great story. Like Doom is basically creating this match of two titans, Master Kung Fu and Razor Fist, and he's orchestrating it for his own personal reason. So it fits the story so well. And this is I've really always loved the Master Kung Fu covers. I own a few of them just because it's a great story.
You know, because you said that, I want to tell you that in the, I would say probably in the like, let's call it the 4 years before you entered the hobby, Master of Kung Fu, it was one of those things where like you could get them constantly, as many as you wanted, you know, no shortage for like, I want to say if you go from like, let's say 2000 to 2004, you could often see them in between 12 to 1800.
Much less than the costume heroes, right? That's what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the thing is that they would not go up in price. And nobody, you know, because it just wasn't that much interest, a smaller hobby, you know. And it wouldn't go up. But the superheroes kept going up, and not that. Nobody, you know, it was just not strong enough interest. But obviously now with the tremendous growth we've experienced in the hobby over, you know, in the 20 years or whatever since then. Wow, even Master of Kung Fu is no longer looked upon as, you know, some lowly Marvel title from the 70s. It's they cost a lot of money to acquire now, you know.
And what's if you look at my gallery, I do have one by Starlin. He only did 3 covers in that whole run outside of the Marvel Special Edition. So I got one of those. That was my Ernie Chan example. I think it was a good one there. I'd love to pick up at some point a Galassi or a Gene Day example, but you know, hey, those are things I'd love to add in the future.
Yeah, good artist to get if you want to get one of each of those.
He good question. How does he eat? Well, he certainly has no problems cutting up his food, but how does he put it in his mouth? That's
he pinches it, I guess. Yeah. Right? He cuts it and pinches it and puts it, you know. Yeah, but how does he, you know? Yeah, how does he get around and do anything else? I don't know. It's pretty prime era Chan, for sure. You could still get them back. No, but even, I mean, certainly cheaper, but they weren't 1,700 4 years ago, right? Like Marcus, I mean,
they're still, I would say, honestly, still at a discount to
definitely a discount.
Superheroes. So there's some good value there, particularly when you look at the artists that are on the stable. You can get a nice cover or splash, you know, from those. That I think those are very good investments. And now, when the movie came out, now the mainstream folks know who they are. But just remember, in '75, that's when Hong Kong Fooey and
Fooey ready to catch the bad guy.
The popularity of Kung Fu. That's like Bruce Lee, you know, from Enter the Dragon in '73. That was so popular back then.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Rich was talking about Razor Fist.
Yeah, I love that. He slices and dices, but wait, there's more. The 1-800. And by the way, Dino, I don't know if.
Yeah.
Do you have something playing in the background? I keep hearing almost like it's coming from like a little radio or something. I don't know. Maybe it's feedback or something. Okay. All right. No worries. As long as nobody else is hearing it, that's what matters. Okay. All right, everybody. Let us get to the next piece. And I just wanted to also mention real quick about that piece. It actually contains two of my favorite cover tropes. Not only does it contain the villain looming overhead, but I also have always been a big fan of checkerboard floor patterns on
no doubt.
covers. Yeah.
So that, to me, when I look at the first class, it was Chessmen of the Chessmen of Mars. It's the cover.
The Chessmen of Mars.
Yeah, it had but remember, that's an extra detail. He didn't have to. The artist didn't necessarily have to do a checkerboard cover, but by doing that, you see the depth behind the action there, which is great. If it was just blank, you couldn't really do that, and it gives it so much great visual interest. The black and the white.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's that symmetrical pattern that it's also the contrast of the symmetrical pattern, right? The black and the white, the black and the white. Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. I love that. Love that. All right. So guys, let us jump ahead once more back to my modern era. Sorry for those of you who don't agree.
90s.
Let's call it the aluminum age, like was earlier mentioned or suggested. Oh boy, this is everybody's gonna love this, I think. What about this, Dino? Come on, tell me, talk to me, baby.
All of this: Dave Stevens, Betty Page. This is, I thought, was a really good example. Not only was it used as a cover for Movie Star News, it was also used to create a statue, a series of needle points that came out. It was in his sketchbook. So again, I think Dave Stevens, he left us too early, but he has only a very limited amount of artwork out there, and he's beloved. And for me, it was a choice of getting something with Rocketeer or with Betty Page. I kind of leaned toward Betty Page when I saw this one. This became available, but again, it really hits home for me. It's very provocative, certainly eye-catching. This was also a Best of CAF winner last year.
I'm not surprised. Yeah. Oh, that's just absolutely spectacular. I don't even.
I will say that I did buy this from a dealer who was after he sold it to me, another collector offered him a pretty heavy premium above it, and rather than pulling the deal and just leaving me in the dust, that dealer honored the deal to move forward, and actually offered to introduce the other buyer if I wanted to flip it for a quick profit. But
I'm glad you say that again. Testing. Yeah, it happens when I speak. It's like somebody says it happens when I speak. It's weird. Okay, and they are hearing it in the crowd. But guys, tell me, is it really, really kind of like low, like kind of like it's a whisper on a little radio that's the volume down at almost zero? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Hope it's not loud. But anyways, I'm sorry.
I don't hear it at all, Ruben. So it must be in the echo. Maybe you don't have a.
Maybe I'm too close. Maybe I'm too close, and maybe if I should stay back here, and then it won't happen. No, I still hear it myself, but anyway, okay. Hopefully it's low, guys. I hope it's not that annoying.
Anyway, but that's why sometimes they often suggest using an earpiece, because you don't get that cycle.
I know, but I tested. I tried that when I first started the channel.
Okay.
And I couldn't do it. I couldn't. No, yeah, it was horrible. So, but yeah, this rarely happens anyway. So
yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Whatever. But let me see here. Put a bow on it. Marcus says, "Yeah, wrap it up, son." Okay, so perfect. Let us go to. Let me see the next one. Sorry, hold on, guys. Sorry. I mean, I listen through speakers like I always do. I'm not doing anything different, Murdoch. CJ, thank you for letting me know it's low at least. Hearing the multiverse, Ruben's at the same time.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me throw a quick question at you from Knights of Old. Hey, Knights of Old. Which pieces would the young collector of yourself be most surprised that you own now? And what was a price ceiling you thought you'd never pay above back then?
Oh, wow. Well, I'm most surprised that I own. Wow.
Most surprised that you now own. Yeah.
I would say, surprised. The fact that I get into kind of some of the independent comics, I do have a Cerebus page that I would really be shocked if you told me when I started in early 2000s that I would have a Cerebus page. I never really read it until later. My in later as a anthology or as a trade paperback. I didn't even read most of the 300 stories, but I did. That surprised me. I just like it because I love the art. It was a scene that is the most memorable scene for me, which is when Red Sonja takes off her top and she says, look at these. You'll see it in my gallery, but that's probably the biggest surprise for me. The second also is I think I do have a I don't know. I think the modern stuff would be a surprise. Now, there's so much vintage stuff that are on my watch list that for me to go outside that and get some 2006 and 2008 and 2012 artists, I think would be a stretch because I just don't know it as well as others. But that would be my surprises there.
Excellent. Great answer, Dino. And with that, why don't we go to the next piece? And for this one, we're going to go in the way back machine.
Way back. Okay.
Yeah. The way back machine.
Hal Foster. This is your show.
Yeah, the thumbnail background. Yeah.
So Prince Valiant. I remember seeing that original art museum in Baltimore. It was there in the 15 years ago, had some really nice old pieces. And I was floored when I first saw a full Sunday Prince Valiant. I mean, these things are 24 by 36, size of a movie poster. And each panel that Hal Foster did is basically the size of a splash page. So to see it up close is phenomenal. I never really went after them before because they're very pricey and it's hard for me to decide what exactly I want to see. But one thing that I know from talking with other Prince Valiant collectors is Queen Alita has a premium. It's kind of like the way Hal Foster draws her was exceptional. And this happened to be one of the few pages that focuses exactly or almost exclusively on Queen Alita. It doesn't even feature Prince Valiant at all. But what I like about it is she also is teaching the king stuff about leadership and how to treat others and how to be respectful and and there's a lot of key themes that I use in my work as a leader for a consulting company. I echo those lessons in the way I lead organizations, and to me it hit home. So I went after this one and really glad I did. This is one of the ones that I really I framed on the wall and I have it to see, and it's beautiful and massive in person.
Oh, thank you for saying that you frame it on the wall, because
just like nobody appreciate it.
Nobody who if you have no intention to frame an original Hal Foster, my suggestion is don't buy it.
Well, first, you can't find an Itoya that fits Hal Foster.
Yeah.
So you will never. So you either frame it or don't buy it.
Don't buy it. Exactly.
I totally agree.
Exactly. And as far as old time GGA, for those of you, that's the acronym for Good Girl Art. I mean, wow, you got like a killer example that you came down with that one, dude. Good. Yeah.
And it's a refined GGA. It's not like Headlights. And boom. It's the way Hal Foster, and he's one of the, if you look at
it's classic
artist talent,
classic.
He would be near the top. I mean, he's revered.
Yeah. Oh, good night, Jason. My friend Jason has to tap out, but I hope you all keep going along into the night.
Thank you for joining.
Catch on Rewind. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Jason. We'll talk soon, bud. And you're very welcome. Thank you.
And that is the second oldest piece that I own in my collection.
Oh, okay. Which is the oldest?
I have I have something that's older. I can't remember what, but I know I used to have something from Captain Marvel #2, which is 1941, but I sold that one.
Okay.
But I had something. I think I do have an early 40s piece. It may not be posted, but this is my second one. And
okay.
I think I would love to try to pair that with a nice Alex Raymond, Flash Gordon, full Sunday. That would be on my wish list for the next 5 years.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Flash Gordon by Raymond. Ooh, baby. Hot diggity.
That's a dream, but we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. Dreams do come true. Carl, I mean, listen, I'm just going to say, a small minority of people in this hobby do that. You're asking me, you can, I mean, I'll let Dino answer for himself, but for me, and I've said this on my shows before, to me, you're just investing, and that's okay if you want to invest in it, but if you're just going to buy something that expensive and frame a photocopy, and most people that frame the photocopies, from what from what I've been told, here even on this show, they say that then they put the originals in the bank, for example. Right. So that's what I'm saying, is that at that point you're really just investing in the art. So
yeah. And I would echo that too. I think if you're going to frame a copy, it's because you have certain concerns about theft or damaging the art in framing. And I think if you do use a reputable framer, museum archival materials, you really take care of the preservation part of it. And if I only frame things that do have meaning to me on the walls, and I want to see it every day, and that's why I do it. By the way, what you see is I do frame everything in kind of a Mylar and mat board, and that lets me have the appearance of a framed piece, but I can store it very quickly in the closet or on my calf cave walls very easily, and take those down to protect against all the other elements and things. So it's a good happy middle ground where I get the framed look without having to invest in all the framing and permanence of a framed piece.
Right. Yeah. Well said, my friend. Okay, let us jump to the next one, everybody. Okay, excellent.
DC.
So this brings us to well, everybody will know why I showed this. Here we go.
Oh, okay. So this is Arthur Adams' thing. This is also my my calf avatar.
Well, that's why if for those who don't know, this is the reason I put it up here. I chose it because it's his avatar, and just wanted to sort of, I guess I wanted you to talk about, out of all the art pieces you could choose from, especially given that for avatars, you don't have to use art from your own collection. Why this piece out of everything in the world available to you?
I think what resonates with me is that how much Arthur Adams can give personality in a picture. Yeah. And I think when you see the thing here, you can interpret in every. You can think, is he mad? Is he upset? Is he just brooding? Is he looking at you because he owes you money? Is he? So it opens the door for kind of interpretation, which I think is the brilliance of what Arthur Adams does. The second thing is I just love the thing. I think, as you see, I think we've talked about 2 pieces or 3 pieces with him in it. I think he's just one of the quintessential Marvel characters that I kind of resonate to myself. Back in the day, I never was the most talkative, and I kind of just let actions speak to themselves. I like to joke around. I have fun, but I can be serious at times. And I think the thing does that in his persona very, very well. I also think Arthur Adams, as an artist, can draw any character well, and anything he draws is avatar worthy. This was at the time the only Arthur Adams commission that I ever had, and so I thought it was appropriate to use it as my avatar.
That's fantastic. And don't think that I skipped over you, Rickster. I'm just saving you for an opportunity to highlight you. Rick says it's all in the eyes.
Yeah,
and
look at
I
the
agree.
reflection. Totally.
Yeah,
totally.
I agree, man. It's the emotion, and it's all in the eyes. That's what speaks.
I also like I'm a very big cosmic, and
yes.
So the background he chose as a very cosmic-ish scene, which I thought was pretty cool as well. Instead of just, he could have done bricks, he could have done blank white, but having it look like a cosmic background, I thought was interesting for me.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's not typically what you would expect, but maybe that's the negative zone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good point, Ruben. That'd be really cool.
And number one Marvel fan, would love to get more Art Adams. Such a crazy weight now. Let me just say something about that. So I mentioned this on a previous show, but I don't know if you were here. So just for your benefit, number one Marvel fan, I'll say it again. In August, I was at the Toronto Comic-Con, only for like 2 hours. It was like kind of in and out. And I spoke to, he wasn't at his table, but I spoke to his wife, Joyce. And I was asking on behalf of a friend who asked me, he was curious, how do you get on a commission list, and what do you got to do?
Beg, borrow,
And
steal.
yeah, she just basically said, you know what? Your best bet is you catch him at a show. And if you can get him to do something for you at a show, that's your best bet. I'm like, oh, but I heard that he takes like commission lists. She goes, yes, he does. But he has lists of people willing to pay $25,000 and $30,000 for a commission that he has had for 2 and 3 years now, and he hasn't gotten to them. So I'm like, okay, so what you're saying is get him at a show, because otherwise there's probably next to no chance it'll ever happen. She's pretty much.
Yeah, he doesn't take open commission lists anymore, which is a shame.
Yeah, yeah. But I really appreciated her honesty about that, because, right, too many artists are like him in that way. And it's great that his own wife was willing to tell the truth and just say, don't bother. She was basically telling me, don't bother. Unless you can catch him at the show, don't bother, Yeah, so there you go, my friend, number one Marvel fan.
And I should point out, that's not only a commission. It's very modern. It's 2019.
Yes.
And it's not a full figure piece. So it breaks a lot of rules for me, but I love it all the same.
Yeah, there you go. And okay, from there, because guys, I don't want to set a record for longest show, and I believe
one or two pieces. How about that?
No. We're not going to. No, we're still 34 minutes away from my record length show. We are not going to do that, but we are doing good though. We are probably a handful of pieces away. We're going to see them all. Okay, so guys, we're going to jump back. Well, again, to my modern era. It's kind of vintage now, though. Maybe. Or I think this is 1990, but tell us about this one, because this
is
so
great. Sometimes
God.
I forget I own this piece. So this is the Transformers. It's a DPS. It's just classic. Cool. Optimus Prime against Megatron beneath the Twin Towers.
Yeah. God.
When this is my one Transformers piece, it just speaks to me in terms of being a New York collector, having been here when the Twin Towers and 9/11 happened. I watched the cartoons with Optimus Prime and the movies, and Megatron here is his chief villain. I'm surprised in the nostalgia for toys and toys-related work, ROM and Transformers and the like have just continued to. I mean, it just continues to grow as collectors start to cross-fertilize across different collections, from toys to cards to now comics and comic art. So I know, and there's a number of very Transformer focused collectors that have inquired about this, and I'm lucky to have my one. So this is my one piece, one and done, move on. But it's a pretty memorable one for me, given the 9/11 and the battle.
Yeah, it's I mean, listen, even if it had a completely different background, I would think this is a pretty spectacular double page splash. I mean, with the two, the leaders of the Decepticons and the Autobots each going at it with each other, right? Regardless of what would have been in the background. But it's so freaky that it's the Twin Towers. And you know what? Not just in the sense that, okay, the Twin Towers are gone, but it's the fact that it's kind of like the heart of Manhattan. You start imagining these two ginormous robots, like just going at it physically with each other.
Well, think about also the perspective. The artist, Andrew Wildman, decided to have it from the ground perspective, looking up. Wonderful choice. It just makes them feel like giants. And the scared people on the sides kind of echo what humans would be reacting. One would be worried about what's happening with his city, and the girl is probably worrying about that she's going to be in collateral damage. There's other people just fleeing. I think it's the composition is a well chosen. It speaks very well to the genius of the artist. And I will say that at the time I picked this up, this is probably 2011 or 2012. On my want list of artists, Andrew Wildman or Transformers was not on that list. But this came up, and the image, as you said, Ruben, sometimes speaks to you louder than the artist name or the title or what the story is. This is a purely aesthetic connection to this piece. And
yeah, absolutely. I have always, I've always championed the art, just again, the art for the art's sake. So
That's right.
if it's a cool image and you love the image and the characters,
It doesn't matter who drew it.
right? Who cares what the name is? And if you don't know the name, like, that doesn't matter. It's an exceptional example, and for that reason alone, it would still in the market sell for, similar prices to whatever, if it was done by, let's say, Herb Trimpe. If it was a Trimpe issue, it wouldn't matter. That wouldn't add any extra value. It would just simply go for a lot of money, exactly because of what it is. A giant double page splash, the Megatron and Optimus Prime slamming away at each other, covering the entire 2 pages at the base of the Twin Towers, period.
Yeah, and I know that Marcus has a wonderful painted Transformers for you. He's probably the best one out there.
Yeah.
If you ever want to see a Prime Transformers painted piece, go look at his gallery. Also, this is one that I've had so many inquiries about buying, and I remember I have a list of one. I have one name that I think would be the right buyer for this, and I keep telling him that I'm not ready to sell yet, because if I do, I probably wouldn't know how to get something else that I'd like the same. So, but I'm shocked. If you'd be shocked at the demand for Transformers art right now. It's quite impressive.
Well, I wouldn't be shocked, because I'm aware.
I'm just shocked. I'm shocked.
I at one time or another, I have owned like 10% of the covers to that series.
Wow.
Yeah. I only wish I had owned them, obviously. Now, not because I want to keep them, but I sold them all, obviously. So it just would have been nice to have sold them in the post-COVID boom, and taken advantage of that. But I wanted to highlight what, where is it? Here it is. Jordan. Jordan says, I'm forever grateful to Ruben for filling my Transformers art collection, because I gave him number 1, page 4. I didn't give him. I sold him.
That's great.
I sold him page 4, right? The first appearance of Megatron and Optimus Prime, right? And Optimus Prime obviously being the more important one, but still, both guys on the cover, on the page, the 4th page of the first issue. And it's crazy, Jordan, is, of course, with my crappy luck, I sold it basically a year and 2 months.
For the movie.
Before the COVID takeoff, blast off, or whatever.
Well, it went to the right home. Jordan,
but at least,
the right home.
He was, I mean, he's if you want the birth page of anything, I mean, I'm glad of all people, it's him. I'm happy it went to you, Jordan. Absolutely. So I'm very, very happy about that.
Yeah, so glad you picked that one. That was again a wild card piece. It's I sometimes forget I have that. It's
yeah, no, absolutely.
It's good to see you.
You're welcome, my friend. You're welcome. Okay, so let us go to the next one, everyone. And from Transformers, we go to this modern classic, arguably one of the better stories of all time. Watchmen.
We talked a lot about 1986 being a pivotal year for me in my reading. Graduated from high school. A lot of the key big books, I guess, trade paperbacks came out. Storyline: The Watchmen, Dark Knight, Elektra Assassin, and this was one that I don't know. I've had 4 Watchmen pages in the past. I've never really. I end up getting offers and selling them, and this one I finally got where I knew this was a keeper for me. This is from number 6. The cover the cover image is in the Rorschach image in the right bottom panels. But this was one that was so gory and almost one that you kind of shudder when you read, because he shows how Rorschach, it says he opened his eyes and it was Rorschach, and it just tells you how gritty and how adult theme the story could be. So it was a very good addition to kind of add to my collection. It's the one character that I'd want to have Watchmen page, and so I do regret it doesn't have the other heroes on there, but it's one that's very memorable, and I'm just glad to get a page from this vaunted story. And it's my one and done. So
No, yeah, and it's classic, and I'm glad for you also that, like, if you're gonna get a page that only has one character, I mean, I think most people would agree they would like to have the Rorschach on it first of all, right? And then you also have him both without mask and at least one panel where you get him in the mask, right? So that's
and then you get the ink blot, which is
and of course the ink blot, exactly. So yeah, exactly. And actually, wasn't this issue the one that the cover was the ink blot?
Yeah, the cover is the ink blot. So that's why I said it's the cover image.
The cover image, right?
I just remember that book pretty well. Came right in the middle of the storyline, and it's shocking when you read the text. We won't go into this. It's pretty gory.
Yeah, and Brian makes a great point, right? This is a powerful page because in the story, in that it's as important as the artwork, because it's a very Hitchcock way of showing horror without actually showing the gore.
You don't have like blood splatter, and he's right. Brian's right. It's just
you leave it to the reader to imagine,
which is almost worse. It's almost worse.
Yes, exactly. Marcus only sees butterflies. That's awesome.
And also, being a cover and splash primarily collector, I mean, there are not many of them. I mean, the covers don't necessarily have the characters on it, and there's only a handful of splashes. There's a bunch of two panel pages. So most of them are just all classic 9-panel Gibbons pages. So I had to wait for one that I had. I mean, I had some others in the past. They weren't necessarily. Two of them had Rorschach. One had the blimp in it, which was kind of cool, but they weren't necessarily keepers for me. But this one was. This one is. So
cool.
Done hunting.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's perfect. You don't have to hunt. I think most people would say the same thing. If you got that one, you're good. Okay, guys. Just so you all know, thank you for all of those of you who could hang around this long. I really
appreciate your time. I hope you're having fun, and I'm certainly enjoying this.
Yeah, it's really fun. And just to let you all know those of you who are still here, there's only less than a handful. There's about 4 left to show you, and then I'm going to show you after that a little preview of what's happening next week. Okay, so a few more minutes and we'll be done. And okay, so from Watchmen we go to an artist we've already seen tonight, but I adore this. Here we go. George Perez Wonder Woman cover.
Yeah, so you like to have a lot of characters in a Perez cover, but Wonder Woman is a solo heroine.
Yes.
But this is those few covers that actually shows the cast of the entire Wonder Woman. So you have all the key people all in some really interesting composition. Floating heads too, as some people say. You don't really get any of the bodies except for Wonder Woman. So that's a bit of a departure for George. He usually tries to impress you on how he can get the whole figure in there, or 20 figures in the same page. I'm actually drawn to the bottom left with the American flag. I was an American flag kind of cover collector as a comic.
Oh, were you?
Collector? Yeah, I had a bunch of them.
In comics or art?
Yeah. So the Golden Age comics, there were plastic covers and my flag covers, and I had I think I completed every one of the classic covers. There was 321, and there were, I don't know, another 120 flag covers of note, and I probably got half of them.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so I like seeing American flags, and this one has like 5 of them in there. Has the NASA space rocket, which is kind of neat. But also just I just thought this series, and you'll see in the revamp of the Wonder Woman character that DC is going to put out, it is this series that it's going to focus on, and this kind of tone to the stories. So this volume 2 run that Perez did, I think he did 46 covers or so. It's 46 issues. A lot of the content in there will be reflected in the storylines of the new Wonder Woman.
Oh, excellent.
Great.
It's Stanley's up to his old tricks, trying to get us to extend the show even longer. Look at him. Can Dino name every character on the cover?
I can't.
No, but listen, Dino, listen. He literally is doing that so that we continue the show longer.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you to. He doesn't want to know if you can do it.
See, I can say it's a good Perez cover when you can't. If I have something or any Perez art piece where I can only name 10 or half of the people that are on the cover, that's when you know you got a good piece. There's so many there, right?
That is so funny. Okay, so yes, number one Marvel fan. You can't name half of them. Yeah, most people probably can't. Hoarder's Hide says, "Love the '80s hair on that cover." A lot of people love that, especially when
That's when you
George
buy a
does
Wonder
it.
Woman piece, you want to see that full. I mean, Perez and Ballin can really put the detail in the hair.
Come on, Brian. The space rocket aimed at the women. Is this a sexual thing? Come on, Brian. Come on, man. Really? Oh boy, just trying to stir up the pot. All right, from there, everybody, we go to this. Oh yeah, this beauty. Oh, look at this, everyone. X-Men, Silver Age. Check it out.
Well, and everyone knows the key artists or X-Men. Jim Steranko was as innovative and influential as any. This is a page that comes from, I think he did 3 books for X-Men, and he introduced, especially number 50, which introduced Polaris. So you could say that's his signature character of that small run. When I picked this up from another very established New York collector, it had a couple things going for it. One, it had Polaris and a great panel bottom left. It also has what they call the Steranko straight leg, so you can see Cyclops punching Magneto, and he's that straight. So he's done that with Captain America, and now he does it with Cyclops. And then he's also famous for the floor perspective. So you see the last panel, you can see the camera is actually from the floor with the foot.
Yep.
So that's another thing that Steranko, and the different angles, I think, really showcase what he brought to comic art. So hey, it was at the time, it was just a good. I was like, okay, this is my one last chance to ever get a Steranko X-Men page. And I think I had to jump for it. So.
Yeah, I mean, look, his strength was always graphic design. Yeah. That's what he brought to comics, was graphic design, and all those things you mentioned. That's all a part of it, you know. Yeah, it's just fantastic. It's what a great page you picked too. Like it's was this a something that you had to fight for and win at auction?
No, this came from a New York collector who at the time had some other needs. He approached me with it. They said maybe Dino might want to buy it, so he offered it to me. And I mean, look, I thank him every day. Every time I see him, I thank him for selling me this page. I do. This is one of those deals where I paid entirely in cash. I had to have a fairly large envelope and from the bank, and I was walking scared through Manhattan streets with my payment on my way to get my piece of art. It was harrowing, but it was worth it at the end. I only mention that because that's as memorable of a deal going down as any.
Well, I mean, I know what you're talking about because I've mentioned it before. Back in the day when I was full-time dealing, I used to go to a lot more conventions looking for art. And I was always walking around. I'm traveling. I'm leaving home, going all the way, to whatever city I'm going to in the United States. I kept it in rolls of 10K in this pocket, that pocket, this inside. Like it was like all over. It was so scary. Like it's so yeah. So I know what you're talking about. It's really you're like sweating it basically.
It's horrible, especially in New York. But I will say that getting a Steranko X-Men meant waiting on a Neil Adams X-Men, because at the time there were some examples of Neil, which I'd love to get a good example there, but when I got the Steranko, I had to kind of push that off, and I've never been able to get one, so that's on my to-do list. I have all the other artists, but not a Adams X-Men.
And an Adams, I think it'll come. I think that'll come for you, Dino.
We'll see. I'd love that. But no, I'm happy to get that one.
So Scott, Hoarder's Hide. Sometimes art and comic deals feel like shady drug deals. Not that he'd know anything about that, but I mean, when you're going down dark Manhattan alleyways with thousands in your pockets,
I think it tells you that one is they're so unpredictable. You just have that sweaty palm that the other side will back off or not have the piece, or maybe it's not what you're looking for, or something will happen. I mean, that's why it's like a shady thing. You kind of have to be very quiet, but move very quickly to close everything off, or else you may lose it. So yeah, it does resemble a drug deal. And
and the Murdoch wants to know, how do you travel when you travel for art hunts? Do you take an empty art portfolio with you to put art in? I mean, typically people will take
I do that. I have a soft side art portfolio. Typically, I try to bring something of large art size, twice up, so that I can fit everything in there. So, yeah, that's all. I used to go to a show with that, and that way I can actually put art. But what I think I learned doing is bring my own Mylars. So I'd bring my own Mylars with the backing boards that I like, so that I can keep everything pretty secure. What I hated early on was you just get kind of a flimsy Mylar, sometimes not even a Mylar. It used to just come in a plastic bag, and you kind of would fear like it would be ripped. So bring your Mylars, and if you're going to bring it, you might as well bring a case that can hold it. And I think that's the safest way to go to a convention. And by the way, people think you have stuff to sell, so they always come up to you and say hi. And,
right.
And they're saying, no, I got that. These are all empty.
Exactly. Before I forget, everybody, because I often do. Anybody interested in Mike Perkins' art? Just wanted to give a little bit of a notification that I'll be sending out to my mailing list. So my mailing list will be hearing about this first. That we will be offering. I'll be putting 2 different types of offers. In other words, discounts. There's going to be minimum purchases involved, but if you're on my mailing list, you'll receive this probably tomorrow. If you're not on my mailing list, I would just say go to the bottom of the page on the website, add yourself to the mailing list, because not only will the mailing list hear about the sale details before my other social media channels, but they will have the ability to be the only ones to take advantage of the discounts for 24 hours, and then everybody else will be able to get discounts. This is all done automatically through the brand new website, because it's a whole brand new interactive payment system or whatever. And so, yes, I have a way that to make sure with codes, checkout codes, things like that, special URLs, so that only certain people will have access. So
Ruben is digital savvy.
There you know. There you go. So yeah, that's it. So there you go. Also, last couple of pieces, everybody. But before I do that, please remember to check out Nick Barucci's show, The EXP, at youtube.com/the-EXP. That's every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. And it's a sales show. So you get to buy affordable art most of the time, and sometimes some higher end art. So check that out. It's a fun day. Fun way to end the work week. It's really fun. And a lot of us are there in the chat having fun along with Nick. So there you go. Check that out. And let me just so you have let me go here to the brand. Let me show you a visual for those of you who may not know who Nicky B is. There he is, the handsome fella. So Nick Barucci, there he is, Fridays at 7 p.m. Eastern. And that's Amy hiding behind the Friday 7 p.m. Eastern words. So there you go for that. So
definitely a fun time. Always a fun time.
Yeah, it's always very fun. Okay, so let me go down to the last couple pieces. So we're going to get close to a record, but we're not going to do a record here. Sorry, that was the last one we showed. So the next one is this one, John Byrne. Let me remove this. Here we go. Talk to me about John Byrne, because this is the actual story that I always thought was going to be not so good. And for so many years, I never bothered to read it. And then when I read it, which, by the way, was probably only about a decade ago, I was like, oh, my God, I think I may like this even better than the Phoenix Saga.
This is one very special. This is the 128 against Proteus.
Proteus, yeah.
It only has 2 characters on it, or 2 of the X-Men, Wolverine and Phoenix. Those are my 2 favorite. And this is an example of you buy a panel page for specific panels. So some of the most memorable is in the middle, you see Phoenix when Proteus basically makes her feel like she's buried underground for a year. It just stuck with you. So you see that image. It's one that's very memorable. And then the last 2 is Wolverine coming out of the woods and of the trees and slashing. Just some pretty classic Wolverine stuff. I actually did a video on this as my dramatic reading, which you should check out on YouTube. It's really fun. But again, everyone likes to have an example of Byrne X-Men. This was one that had my 2 favorite characters on it. It was a good scene, and having a the Wolverine slash panel at the bottom was pretty compelling for me. And it's right. It's a story that was very engaging and just had some really suspenseful twists.
Oh
Um,
gosh, yeah.
yeah, it's
I'm telling you,
it's really cool.
I literally, it's one of those stories that it just blows my mind because, like I said, I don't know what it was about it, but I would hear about, oh yeah, the Proteus saga. I don't know. I just looked at those issues. I was like, whatever. And literally until 10 years ago, I did not read them. And when I finally did, wow, literally, I'm not joking when I say I may have loved it at least as much as I loved the Phoenix saga.
Yeah, his powers were pretty supernatural, and it was hard to think of how you could beat him. But remember, this also came between two very impressive sides. So it came after the whole Alpha Flight
Yes.
arc, and it came before the Dark Phoenix Hellfire Club saga, and
Right.
introduction of Dazzler. So you had a lot of very colorful and action oriented storylines, and then the Proteus was the 126, end of 126, 127, 128. That one could get disappeared if you kind of just look at the covers and you kind of go, okay, well
Yes.
but the story is magnificent. It was one of
Yes.
the villains that really tested the X-Men as a team, and I won't spoil how they get him, but you kind of wonder there's some parts in the middle where you think he's unbeatable, that the
Yeah.
X-Men they can't beat Proteus, which is pretty daunting for a villain.
Yeah, I was just like I said, I think I don't know if it was the covers, that what was happening on the covers that made me think, that doesn't look like it's going to be anything special, you know. But boy, yeah, it's so fun when you think you have this misconception of a story and you don't read it for decades because just from whatever misconception you have, and then when you finally
Exactly.
say,
You say, wow,
okay, I'll give it a shot. And then when you end up loving it, that's crazy. Like, it's such a good feeling to have that happen, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
I
oh,
had a lot of fun with the dramatic reading. If you want to check that out, you can go Google it I mean, not Google, it's on YouTube, but I try to make it fun to read through the panels for you and show you what elements I like to emphasize.
all right. And all right. So everybody, sorry, Marvel One Number fan wants to say X-Men back then was life. I read anything they appeared
Oh
in.
yeah.
Well,
And I
they
didn't go
read
back and read I read it in sequence. Like I was going through the entire X-Men. I think I started in 116 and
okay.
then read it through, and it was just must read. Like every time it came out, it was wow. Okay, I got to read what's happening now.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
pretty fun.
great stuff. All right, guys. With that, we're gonna bring you the last image of the night. So yeah, we're gonna do it without having
Thank you
to say
all
the
for
record.
hanging out, and this
Yeah,
has been really
thank
cool.
you so much. All right, so here we go. And this is the last one. And
So what
this
did
one
he choose for last?
I wanted to show last because for me, again, first year I was into collecting and reading. And so it was part of God, just one of the many great things that came out that year. And it's not just that I loved the character, the artwork, but it was the combination also of the story and the writing. So,
Was it Elf?
particularly on this page, something is said on the page. I'm going to show it because you can't guess it. You're going to go, oh, right, of course.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Oh
So,
my God.
yeah, now I know what you're talking. So this is to me my Trinity page. This is
Okay.
my favorite artist, my favorite image of him drawing my favorite character. So this is what I think of when I think of Logan and Wolverine. It is a portrait with just some detail that you can see 30 feet away. And it's a simple 2-panel page at the end of this Wolverine 3, one of the 4 miniseries. And he's not even in costume. But that makes it a little bit more special because it's really Logan and his identity. There is this one, I don't know what you're drawn to, but I love the caption where he goes, "Because I'm a man, not a beast."
That's my point when I said it's not only the character and the art, it was this particular page I say for last because of that line.
So he, to me, when Frank Miller did this miniseries, he really brought out the fact that Wolverine had this internal conflict between being a man and with honor and nobility, and
Yeah.
being a beast who could rage and fight and achieve his goals with physical force. And I think what he was saying in this story was he was being treated as a beast, as an animal, someone who couldn't really think through and have relationships. And he's saying to the Shingen, who's the main villain, that no, he's a man, that he tries to strive to be better, and that makes him more than just a animal or a beast. And there's just so much deep meaning behind this part of the story. But the art itself, aesthetically, is one of the best pieces I think Frank Miller ever drew. And this is again this is number one in my CAF gallery for a reason, in terms of one of my featured pieces, and it's one that I'm just so blessed to have.
Are you saying this is the most viewed piece?
No, the most viewed I think is the Daredevil, the DPS Man Without Fear.
Okay.
Or it's the Burn X-Men page that you showed. But this is one that this is so close to home. Again, as I said, Trinity, favorite artist, favorite image of my favorite character. It's hard to get a piece of art that hits that type of tone with my collecting nirvana.
Yeah. It's, oh my God. I could talk for a long time about this whole thing and what it meant to me. But yeah, especially I remember reading this when I got to this page. All of the words in those 4 captions on the right side, to me, all of those words hit me even as a 12-year-old. To me, I felt like
so deep.
This is so wow. Like, this is not for kids. I was like, this is more like, it was one of those earliest times that I thought to myself, what are these people talking about? Comics are for kids. No way.
And you guys all know the story. Like Chris Claremont and Frank Miller shared a ride from the San Diego Comic-Con. This is when Wolverine was already popular in X-Men, but Frank and Chris talked about a story that they can really make Wolverine shine as a solo story in Japan, his roots and this whole concept of man versus beast. And it was this story, or this limited series, that I think catapulted Wolverine to be the popular character that he is today. It was groundbreaking. The art was fantastic. It was very innovative at the time, yet transcendent. And the story was magnificent. To credit to Chris Claremont for putting together something that was so riveting, and it survives as one of the best story arcs right now you can read of Wolverine. And glad to have a piece. And that's what we all want as art collectors, is grabbing a piece of storylines that are meaningful to us. So
absolutely fantastic. Well, that's it, everybody. That is the show and tell. We actually made it. We're probably gonna set a record just because I'm gonna blab for the last couple of minutes.
But thank you, Ruben. Thank you. Good choices. Really, always pleasure to talk about art and
absolutely. And like I said, I would love to have you anytime in the future, just to shoot the breeze, like we were doing. I would have loved to have done nothing more than just shot the breeze, because you saw how everybody, like, even more, like my crowd here, the live chat crew, like I've always said,
that's
they're
a good
awesome.
crew. I love
these guys are so awesome. And like I was talking to I was talking to Jason Ladwig, because he was with me last week on the Super Bowl show, right? I did a pre-Super Bowl show, which very few people attended. I was peaking at like 15 people, but even with 15 people, it felt, we talked afterwards,
and he was
family.
Like, he was like,
it felt like a regular show, because the guys are always constantly chatting, and it still feels like it's busier even when it's not as busy. Like, it's fantastic. So thank all of you guys always for tonight, for every other weekend. It just really, I can't thank you enough. You guys are so awesome. And that's why I say you guys make the shows more than anything else, even more than the content, or at least as much as the content. And that's why I like to give you guys credit here on these, not only on the video thumbnails now, but, here on the backgrounds, right? The members of the live chat crew. So give yourselves a hand for sure. You all deserve
thank you
it.
all.
Really appreciate it. But yeah, so to close this out, want to let you guys know that not only is our awesome friend Dino spectacular at speaking, showing art, and what have you, But tune in next week, because next week I'm going to be doing episode number 2 of Comic Art, 101. So that's the teaching / learning series. And let me show you the video thumbnail here. I'll put that up in a segundo. Here we go. This is for next week's show, everyone. Look at that. Look at that. It wasn't enough just to have Dino here for 1 week. He is going to do back-to-back coming in, and he will be doing a segment alongside, well, first, okay, as you guys can see, it's Comic Art 101, and this particular episode is going to be specifically on conservation, presentation, and storage. And I have, as you see in the image, you can see that Jeff is right underneath the word conservation, because that's his forte, and that's what he's going to be speaking about. But before Jeff gets into that, Dino has agreed to come on and do his presentation on presentation and storage. And that is going to be something that's also very fun, because it's something that Dino himself has been wanting to do, because a lot of people ask him about his storage and presentation. So,
and just to be clear, I'm just a cameo. That's Jeff's show, and I'm not going to take any of his thunder. But I'll appear for a few minutes to take you through my storage approach, and hopefully that's fine.
Listen, you're going to start the show off. That's fine. You'll start the show. It's not Jeff's show. You can start the show off. And like I said, if you want to hang with us and just be, a commenter to whatever Jeff says along with me, beside me, you're welcome, of course, to stick around as long as you want. So that's up to you. But
I also enjoy being in the chats and listening and learning myself.
Yeah, listen, totally up to you. But just so you know, not only is it cool with me, it's cool with Jeff. So just so you know.
All right. Well, thank you. Look forward to that, and thank you again for everyone just sticking around. A great time tonight.
Yeah, thanks everybody. Dino, can you stick around for a couple of minutes?
Got it.
Okay, sounds good. I'll put you back in the green room, and I'll see you in a bit. Okay.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care, guys.
Thank you.
Night.
All right, guys, thanks again so much. And I can't close the, we've already set the record for the longest show. If I was going to set a new record for the longest show, I couldn't have done it with I wouldn't be happier to do with anybody else other than Dino. So that worked out really well. Really happy about it. Really loved all the banter at the beginning. So yeah, I'm hoping that he's willing to come back at some point in the future, so that we can do just a sit down and shoot the shit, shoot the breeze kind of episode like we were doing for the first half hour. Because like I said, that's why I asked you guys if you were cool with maybe letting this become just a shoot the breeze episode, a hangout, rather than a show and tell. But yeah, we could talk so much more. So hopefully he'll agree to come back at some point in the future, and we'll do just a regular hangout. That would be awesome. So thank you. But yeah, I can't believe how many comments here came in the end while we were sort of saying our final goodbyes here. And no, Stanley, you are not going to get Dino's top favorite artist. Feel free to elaborate a lot. Awesome. Marcus, the hurry, it's not really so much for me. It's that I do want people to watch the content, if at all possible. And as I've always said, this, the longer the show goes, the less the people on Rewind watch, right? Because they come to the channel, they see, oh, what's on? Oh, Dino, great. But how long is it? Oh, shit, 3 hours and whatever. Oh, my God, that's the longest ever. Oh, I don't have time for that. And they don't watch it, right? So that's kind of, it's a balance. That's why I try to find the balance. And I've told you in the past, like, I don't care as much anymore. I used to care about the whole, trying to keep it to 2 hours or whatever. Obviously, I don't care about that anymore. I just want to have fun with you guys, especially in the chat. You guys really are what make this so much fun for me, certainly. But yeah, at a certain point, I don't want to turn off all the Rewind viewers. That's why, so I kind of want to just try to keep it low. But anyways, whatever. A new record tonight. What are you going to do? It is what it is. Thanks to Dino. And yes, Dino has more stories, but like I said, we'll get him back. I'm sure he'd be happy to come back and just do a hangout. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate it. Thank you for coming by as always. Thank you, number one Marvel fan, as always. Really, really appreciate you, Mr. Reg. I thank you to Dino, of course, and saving us from my ramblings. Yeah, but you got his ramblings. That's okay though, right? But it's true. You get mine every week. So Arun, Dino, like Lennon and McCartney. Hey, CJ, that's awesome. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thanks. Oh, thank you. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you, Carl. I hope it stopped raining there. Forgot you came on early last week. Early. Oh, right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you could catch it on Rewind. It was actually pretty fun. Not that I don't know why I sound surprised. Just because I figured, oh, if not many people show up, it might not be as fun. But yeah, even with 15 people, whatever, it was still a fun show. So check it out if you have some time. And claim sale. I'm not sure why you're asking that, but I'm probably going to be doing one soon. Actually, 2 weeks from now is Hoarder's Hide, otherwise known as Scott Brown, which I mentioned at the top of the show. He'll be here 2 weeks from now. And I think the week after that, I'll probably be doing a claim sale. All right, so we'll see for sure. You'll know if I do it. You'll see it when you get the notification. Yeah, thank you, of course, and the chat. Of course, you see, there you go. You got to thank each other in the chat because you guys make it rock. So absolutely, color guide preservation, not quite. Awesome, thank you, Rickster, as always, man. Appreciate you. Who the hell is Von Huck? Inviting Von Huck. I don't know. I don't get that one. Thanks for helping me through the first non-football Sunday. Thank you, Stevie B. Appreciate it, man. Double the Dino, exactly. Double the fun. See him next week. Not restoration, conservation. There's a difference. Eternals. Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you. A legendary collection. It absolutely is. And you're legendary to me, Maki Poo. Thank you, sir, for coming by and listening, man, and watching. I appreciate it. And Jeff needs 10 minutes. Take all the time you need. There you go. You see, Dino? You see, Dino? He only needs 10 minutes. Take all the time you need. There we go. We'll try to convince him, Jeff. Maybe he'll decide to at least hang out with us and not rush through his presentation. Thank you, Rickster. Appreciate it as always. Thank you, man. What about your second guest, Stanley? Oh, I hope Stanley would agree to come on someday. That'd be fun, man. Good night to you, Rich. Thank you, my friend. Thank you. Good night to you, CJ, as well, of course. Every week, great. Hey, thank you. Really appreciate that. I try, man. I just try to make it fun for all of us together, So thank you, Carl. Really appreciate it. And thank you, Murdoch. Liking the new site. Very nice upgrade. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you haven't done so already, check it out if you can. If you have a chance and you haven't done it, check it out on a PC. There's a feature. It's my favorite feature. When people who are on mobile or tablets, it just doesn't work. So I don't have to explain it. If you go onto on my site, my new site, looking at it on a PC, I think you'll know immediately what I'm talking about. Move your mouse around and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's really a lot of fun. I like that you're answering this. Good night, all. Fun show. Good night, Brian. And of course he does. We've already set a record, so why not, right? Thank you. Appreciate it, Scott. I'll see you soon. Talk to you soon. Listen to the rewind while doing house chores. Okay, listen. Okay, excellent. Thank you. Good night. Good night, everybody. And thank you again, as always, Mr. Easy Go Lucky. We are celebrating the record. You celebrate it. I'll have a beer maybe next week with the guys. We'll show next week, cover comics also, or just be art. It's always art because it's an art channel. We're up and staying. Sorry, man. Yeah, it's always related to art. Although, given that the preservation topic is similar and related to art and comics, feel free to come by and ask Jeff, if any of the options that he's going to give out and talk about, ask him if these things also apply to comics or just art, So yeah, I hope to see you here next week, regardless. Thank you, Mr. Easy Go Lucky. Thank you. We're up and staying again. Thank you very much for the fun stories and art. And thank you, of course. A lot of the thanks tonight goes to my friend Dino. He was awesome. So, Caesar, I appreciate it. Site's great. It needs more art. I know, but I'm down to only one guy. I'm only representing Mike Perkins now, so that's it, right? So I may fill a little bit of art in another section of my own art, but I'm thinking, I just like selling art through YouTube because I get to interact with everybody live. It's just like being at a convention. So I think maybe what I'll do is I'll continue doing drops on YouTube, but whatever doesn't sell, I'll then just put on the website. So, but if if you know any good artists that work hard and do monthly books that need help selling, send them my way. But thank you everybody. Again, thanks for everything. Appreciate it. Make sure you tune in next week. And it's 8:00 as usual, 5:00 on the West Coast. And I look forward to seeing you guys then. All right. Peace.